In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting was provided on December 5th, 2025 by sending written notice and electronic notice to the Courier News and the Breeze, posting on the website and the bulletin board in the municipal building, and filing with the township clerk. Roll call, please.
Councilman Beckel?
Here.
Councilwoman Isla?
Here.
Councilman Kirsch?
Here.
Councilman Ring?
Good evening. Here.
President Geiger?
Here. Would everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of July 9th, 2026?
Yes.
Are there any questions, comments, corrections, concerns? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next is the Township Council reports. Anybody want to go first? I'll go first because I always make everybody else go first, so I'll make myself go first tonight. Okay. So, I am Joan Geiger, the Council President. First, I want to congratulate, forgive me if I butcher your name, I don't believe he's here tonight, but Jishu Calavan, a rising senior at Bridgewater Raritan High School, for receiving the Congressional Award Gold Medal. And I would tell you what it is, but my eyes got blurry reading everything he had to do in order to get it. But there is an article, if anyone wants to see it, from the Patch about it, and I thought it was worth noting. Secondly, for everyone's information, Somerset County partners with AARP to assist older adults and low to moderate income residents to prepare their tax returns and apply for property tax relief through various state programs for 65-year-olds and older. And they are seeking volunteers, especially bilingual ones, to help provide services to these people. So if you need help preparing your taxes or applying for any of the tax relief available to seniors, or you can volunteer, please go to the Somerset County website and check it out. I attended the health fair at the Hindu Temple in Bridgewater together with two Bridgewater Raritan High School students. We sat at the American Lung Cancer Screening Initiative table, which the students put together and prepared and did all of the work. I just sat there and talked to people, and we were providing information regarding free early detection testing for lung cancer, people who are at high risk for lung cancer, which would be first responders and vets. The test is non-invasive and it's free, and I do highly recommend the health clinic, the annual health clinic at the temple for anyone who's interested in health issues. I also want to give a shout out to our Deputy Town Clerk, Rob Fields. He worked with the DEP to install a pet waste bag station at the Alfred Brown Park in Bradley Gardens. The only cost to the town will be the cost of the replacement bags. I want to update everyone on the Victory Town Plaque project. It's moving along smoothly. Many thanks to Jane Gandolf and Christine Rose for assisting in the plaque wording and seeking to find the best place to put the plaque. We anticipate there will be a ceremony and the plaque will be installed sometime in the fall. Finally, no, not finally, the audit. In order to get ahead of it, I see Kathy Franco in the back. I'm going to save you a minute of your time. You don't have to ask about the recommendation in the audit. There is we do have the audit. There was only one recommendation, and I'm going to read it to you. It was that sufficient funds be available in the appropriations prior to the commitment and expenditure of funds, and I want to explain that. That had to do with the excess funds that were needed for snow removal, which I'm very happy, and I don't mean any disrespect to the recommender here, but I don't know that we could have possibly anticipated we would need an extra $600,000 for snow removal this year, but we'll try to stay on top of it in the future. Last year, right, last year. Thank you. And lastly, for my fun history fact, George Washington and Lord Sterling created a sophisticated communication network to track British troop movements in the area via a system of beacons. There were 23 in the area, and what they were was basically pretty tall wooden towers that they would burn that provided light and signals to all of the troops in the area. And one of them was in Middlebrook in Bridgewater. And I just want to give a shout out to Lance Geiger, no relation. He is known as Mr. Local History. He is the Basking Ridge official historian, and he's the one that made me aware of it. And I just want to know, does anyone in the audience know about this? I had never heard of it before, and I thought it was fascinating that they did that. So you can go to Mr. History's webpage and learn more about it. And that is my report. I will pick on Mr. Ring next, since he looked ready.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, received, along with some of my fellow council members, numerous emails related to the proposed self-storage facility on Route 22, saying please don't change the zoning, or why is Bridgewater considering this? I think it's important to note that this council is not considering changing the zoning. And the reason why it's being considered is our zoning does not allow it, but under New Jersey land use laws, landowners or prospective landowners have the right to apply for a variance, a hardship variance, which is what's happening. The proposed purchaser is requesting a variance in order to be able to build the self-storage facility, and we are required by law to hear those applications if they're properly submitted. If we did not hear the application, they could probably go to court, and my guess is they'd get a ruling to be able to build without us hearing it. So we're not looking to change the zoning. Someone is following the letters of the law and submitted a hardship application, which we are required to hear. I know I said I wasn't going to touch on this piece, Council President, but a few years back, this council did pass a dedicated rider for monies collected to fund memorials outside to honor police, fire, and EMS who have served this town. Project has been kind of on and off again over the last couple of years. Council President and I met with some of the founding members of that committee, I guess about a week or so ago, and we hope to have more in the future on that. And then the last item, I attended the Regional Partnership, sorry, I forgot for a moment there. Regional Partnership meeting last week. Big topic of discussion there is trying to finalize the criteria for some upcoming grants. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilman Isla?
Hi, thank you so much, Councilwoman, President Geiger. I wanted to just add that to that zoning board meeting, I want to thank everyone for showing up, and also the board itself for the way they handled a very big crowd with a very big I think there was a very crowded overflow room as well. And then more recently this week, we had two important meetings. The Finance Budget Committee did meet, so it's everyone, the CFO, our Township Administrator, and as well as Councilman Bucko and we had a very good conversation with all the experts, with the auditor, about the audit that came in, not just on time, but like President Geiger mentioned, with just one, what I call CAPA, a corrective act, measure. So hopefully, we'll have fewer next year. And then also, we did ask, can we make sure we learn from anything around New Jersey so we can avoid any big blunders in the future. Hopefully, we're going in the right direction, I think, but there's a lot of work to be done. And then more recently on Tuesday, we had a long planning board meeting, almost, I think, past 11:30 p.m. So again, wanted to thank everyone that was not just on the planning board, but the residents that showed up from Bridgewater and Somerville, and all of our experts that testified. Really appreciate everyone and how they conducted themselves pretty late into the night. And then I'll keep it short here. I did want to thank also the Health Commission, so thank you for joining us today, and look forward to Kevin Sumner's presentation. So thank you so much.
Councilman Kirsch?
Thank you, President Geiger. As far as events attended, back on July 11th, I attended the lunch and program for the Jack's Kids fundraiser. Fortunately, the weather held out for most of the softball activity in the mid to late morning, and that was a successful event. And I can report out that the proclamation that we delivered was ultimately signed and brought over to them. Want to dovetail on a few comments from Councilman Ring on the self-storage tectonic application. Everything he stated was 100% correct. The thing that I just want to add is that when any landowner submits a complete application and is current on his or her taxes, they do in fact have the right to be heard. They have the right to be heard in a timely manner. They have the right to be heard in an orderly manner. And the Board of Adjustment, or a planning board for that matter, is not really permitted to express an opinion. They like something, they don't like something. The facts need to speak for themselves. Now, a couple people have sometimes asked me, well, how could this even be subject to a hearing? Well, the reason is because there's no pre-zoning board. As long as an applicant, has, as I said, a completed application and is current on their taxes, they are entitled to a hearing, and that's what's occurred there. That's what occurs, throughout Bridgewater and throughout New Jersey and other states, I'm sure. Other issue I want to acknowledge, because we've all gotten some correspondence on this, is about paving, and just in the interest of full transparency, want to state that the way we've handled road improvements in the past, I presume the way that we're going to handle it on a go-forward basis, is a collaboration with administration and identification of those roads that are the highest priority. And when we say the highest priority, we mean in totality for the town, not just the road that an individual happens to be looking at each and every day. As much as people may think that their road is the worst one in town and needs immediate attention, for better or worse, we go through freeze and thaw cycles. We scrape the pavement each time we clear snow. It is something that the mayor and at least our previous council made a considerable investment doing. I presume that in its own way, this council will do the same. But it is a collaborative process, and over the last several years, it's also been data-driven, where we've looked at the condition of the road, through a road survey, through photography. So again, it's not just the person that screams the loudest gets their road. I have pledged to everyone who's brought a road to my attention that I will pursue the improvement of that road as quickly as we can justify it. And again, that is within the constraints of money and within the constraints of overall condition of other roads. And then the final comment I wanted to make, I know we're going to discuss the audit. And I just want to be very clear that this township, this government, has been moving in the right direction as it relates to finance the entire time that at least those of us who are on this dais have been here. We run a very large, complex operation. There are, from time to time, recommendations. We abide by those recommendations each and every time and address them as quickly as possible. But just so that there is no miscommunication, we are and continue to be moving in the right direction financially. Our house is in good order, and we certainly are committed to making sure that remains the case. And that's my report.
Councilman Bucko?
Thank you very much. Just briefly, as Councilwoman Isla had mentioned, the Finance Committee met with the administration to review the audit, which I've got a copy of right here. The public will have the opportunity to view it upon, I believe it's upon approval of the resolution that is on the agenda this evening. Am I correct with that? Yes, okay. Thank you. I would just like to thank our CFO, Ms. Hausman, for the hard work in getting the audits, the financial records available to the auditor so that it could be completed in a timely manner. And also happy to note that from previous years, there were a number of recommendations and corrective actions that needed to be taken. Those were in fact taken, and those issues were corrected. And I am confident that the one item that was flagged from the previous year's audit will also be corrected. And in the case of this one, I believe we probably have some responsibility with that as well, and I think there will be a further discussion on that. That is, excuse me, the balance of my report, but I would just like to dovetail the item that President Geiger brought up with the history of the signal towers during the Revolutionary War in Bridgewater, that actually the tradition of signal towers, in a way, continued in Bridgewater for more than a century later, where Bridgewater did have one of the microwave relay towers that connected the country together through the phone network, when many of our long-distance calls were carried by microwave carrier. So that tradition continued from before there was a United States through to today.
Council President, if I may, I know we're going to talk later about the audit, but just before public comment, I think it's worth clarifying, since we've all commented about the audit. I heard it mentioned, we didn't anticipate $600,000 in expenses. Just to clarify, the audit finding was actually only $18,850 some odd dollars from expenses incurred at the end of the year due to a storm. So while we may have spent several $100,000s on snow removal, the audit finding is not $600,000. It's only $18,853. So how could we have predicted that? We can't.
So I guess I don't quite understand the recommendation. Like, how can we?
Well, so we'll talk more about it, but we do create a try to have a reserve available for those storms at the end of the
So
year.
we didn't have enough of a
The
reserve.
reserve.
We had a reserve.
Yes, it just didn't have enough.
It was just under.
Yeah, we were $18,853.72 short in the reserve.
We did pretty good. I would say we did pretty good considering the whole expenditure that we
Anytime you're
had.
dealing with snow removal, you're rolling the dice as to how much you budget for it, because nobody knows how much we're going to get.
And we know already, we'll expect in 2026, we had snowstorms already, right? So we can plan better.
And, sometimes those small storms that, not the big accumulating, but the much smaller storms are more of a nuisance storm because we still have to go out and clear roads.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Town Administrator Pappas, you want to give the mayor's report?
Thank you very much. I do want to also acknowledge Sarah Hausman and Anne Marie Silva and the finance staff for their hard work, as has been mentioned here tonight. I do have a memo that Sarah did prepare that would like to distribute for the council. This, I thought it would be helpful, especially for several of you, or maybe not as familiar, to create a memo that delineates the statutes that govern the governing body's involvement in the audit and the review and the approval of the audit. So there you have it. Highlighted there is legislation that actually extended the completion, the deadline for completion of the audit to August 31st. It had been earlier in the year, and because numerous municipalities throughout New Jersey could not make that deadline, the state did extend it. We didn't need it this year, but they did extend it. I do want to just also highlight, we probably will talk about it more regarding the audit. When we met with Mr. Swisher, our auditor, earlier in the week, as has been mentioned, he talked about one of his other clients, a town that was not mentioned by name, but that this particular town had, I think he said 15 or 17 recommendations, and many of them recurred year after year after year because they were unable to address those. So we wish we didn't have one. We did have one. You've all described it in detail, and that's already been resolved because of the funding of that in this year's budget. So that has been resolved already.
Question. Sorry. The August 31st, is that for all future years, or was that just for this year?
Let's read the statute.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
Don't know. We'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to mention is we had a note sale, a bond anticipation note sale, a little over a week ago. That is a rolling over of bond anticipation notes. The township's strong financial position became quite evident. There were 5 nationally known firms that submitted bids. The winner was J.P. Morgan. The interest rate was less than the interest rate that we were able to get last year. The interest rate this year was 2.6940. Last year's was 2.8963. And why that's significant, not just because we can tout that, that was attractive to investors, but that because of the lower interest rate, there will actually be a net savings of $62,000 because of the lower interest rate. So we were very pleased. Numerous people besides Sarah, Mr. Swisher, Mr. Drakewitz, our bond counsel, Mr. Inverso, our financial advisor, all were involved in this, and we're very, very pleased to report that. Madam President, I would like to just make a couple of comments about the presentation, if I could.
Sure, of course.
I don't know if I guess there's no proclamation. The township, Bridgewater Township, does have a relationship with the Middlebrook Health Commission. Up until a few years ago, Bridgewater has had a full-time health officer, and that changed in 2020 when the health officer resigned, and it was just before the pandemic, and it was a very challenging time. We were able to get a retired health officer to help us on an interim basis, and then we were able to contact the Middlebrook Health Commission and actually retain them on a contractual basis for the balance of 2020. The relationship went well. The delivery of their services was exceptionally good and met the needs that we had. And after that, I guess it was after that or a year or so, we joined as a municipality among a total of 4 municipalities. That enabled us to have 2 seats on the Board of Commissioners table that set policy, approve the budget, and obviously approve the agreements with the various municipalities that want to be a part of that or potentially be a contractual customer. Prior to the health officer resigning, the health officer report was the health department is part, or health division is part of the Department of Human Services. Ms. Madrid, Christine Madrid, who is here, is the Director of Human Services, and in that capacity, she would supervise the health officer. And so she is the conduit through which the delivery of health services is directed, and certainly she has a very close working relationship with Mr. Sumner and the staff. We have a full-time health inspector, Patty Timko, who does an exceptional job. She's a Bridgewater employee, full-time employee. And then we have a part-time health inspector that, again, is part of our contract or membership with the Health Commission, and that part-time employee works with Ms. Timko and carries out many of the same responsibilities, but is an employee of the Middlebrook Health Commission, not an employee of Bridgewater Township. So I appreciate the preparation that Ms. Madrid and Mr. Sumner have undertaken for this presentation. He was with us a few years ago, but glad that he can give us an update. And Madam President, thank you for allowing me to kind of provide a little introduction.
Okay. I think it's now time for the presentation of the Health Division by Kevin Summer. Welcome to Bridgewater.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for inviting me and indulging me. Mr. Pappas has given an introduction, so saved me a little bit of time. Thank you. So Kevin Sumner, Health Officer and Director of the Middlebrook Regional Health Commission. And before I dive into the details, I love your history pieces. I was actually a classics major as an undergrad, along with my biology, so I love the history piece. But I wanted to, I recently took my wife to the Bon Jovi concert. And at that concert, I was sitting there reflecting. I was a quasi-professional trumpet and guitar player in high school and college, and always, enjoyed the applause and respect. And I was really struck by the adulation that these performers receive. And I'm sure you've all experienced that in some setting. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. Wouldn't it be nice if public health had that same kind of response? Which obviously I'm not looking for the adulation, but I'm hoping that the presentation will garner some interest, maybe some value in what we do. So I'm going to work on that for the future and how I can create an analogy between music and public health. With that, Middlebrook Regional Health Commission, Mr. Pappas gave you this introduction. You have in front of you a blue folder that has a copy of this presentation in it, as well as my business card. Our 2025 report to the community and two of our most recent releases to the public, a summer press release newsletter and a July newsletter, all of which are available on our website as well. We send them out. They're distributed through email as well as our social media. But so you have a couple of hard copies there. Just a little bit more background into the commission. It was formed in 1970 as a result of changes in the state statutes, which allowed and encouraged shared services amongst communities to provide for efficiency as well as some cost savings in public health services. It resulted in a reduction of nearly 500 local health departments across the state to today where we have about 100 local health departments across the state. So really a prime model of the shared services that we hear about so very often in New Jersey. I joined the commission in 1985, so that puts me in my 42nd year. I've done the environmental health piece that Mr. Pappas referenced when speaking about Ms. Timko and the part-time inspector. I was the health educator for a short period of time, and in the early 90s got my health officer's license and advanced to the health officer for the commission and the towns that we serve. The Health Commission is the local health department for Bridgewater, as well as Greenbrook, Warren, and Watchung. Those are the 4 communities we serve, and we serve to provide public health services. This is an abbreviated definition from 1920. CEA Winslow was an epidemiologist and one of the original staff professors at Yale School of Public Health, and he defined public health as the art and science of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting physical health and efficiency through organized community efforts. And I highlight here the science and the art as well as community, because I think those are the key provisions. Yes, we prevent disease, we prolong life, promote physical health. That's what we do. But the way in which we do it is focused on the population as a whole, and while recognizing the science, and everybody always talks about the science, I think it's also important for us, again, why I really appreciate the history piece, to think about the art of what we do and how we communicate that science so that it's understandable and people can act upon that science as opposed to being overwhelmed by it, not clearly understanding it. My mother recently asked me, how do you differentiate between healthcare and public health? And we get this often. And so there are really two key components, I think, to answering this question. One, public health prevents and healthcare treats. And so our purpose and goal is to prevent people from needing healthcare. And we do that through a number of efforts, which I'll talk about in a minute. The other difference is that healthcare focuses on the individual, and again, public health focuses on the community at large. So we're really looking at population-based activities. We do that not by ourselves, but in partnership and collaboration with all sorts of different entities across the community, across the state, and in fact, across the nation. I have colleagues that I refer to regularly across the country who are experiencing similar activities or similar issues, and we learn from each other. We like to think of the governmental public health at the center of this model, though that's not always the case. In New Jersey, it is almost always the case that governmental public health leads this effort, considered to be the chief health strategist, so assessing the needs of the community, identifying what those needs are, developing programs, partnerships, activities that address those needs, and then assuring that those needs are actually being met by the services that we provide. On our website, we maintain an inventory of many of those partners, if not most of those partners that we work with, as well as others that are available and that we refer folks to. So again, we tend to be at the center of this, but not working at all by ourselves, working in partnership with others. If we dive into what governmental public health does, this is a somewhat complicated slide. But it really divides our activities into three big buckets. At the base of that bucket are the foundational capabilities. This is the infrastructure of the health department. We have to have the ability to do disease surveillance and identify infectious diseases in the community and respond to those infectious diseases. Develop those partnerships within the community. We spend a lot of time on bolstering our emergency preparedness activities. Recently, we had the World Cup that we prepared for. Thankfully, we didn't see much of any anomalies as a result of that, which was a pleasant surprise. We had some heat issues a few times because of the heat wave, but we're still monitoring because infectious diseases have incubation periods, and so there's some period after that that we'll be monitoring, but for the most part, we had smoke conditions recently. We had the heat waves. We've had recent experiences with Ebola travelers and other things. So all of that falls into that emergency preparedness piece. So again, the capabilities, what we have to have in place to be able to function as a health department. The pillars in this are the services and activities that we provide. And that's what I'll dive into more detail on with a few numbers for you. But it's really about communicable disease control, chronic disease and injury prevention, which is really where our health education and health promotion activities are most focused. Environmental public health, which Ms. Timko and Ms. Bongiovanni are responsible for primarily in town and doing the environmental health inspections and follow-ups. Assisting with access to care, so folks who don't have providers or health care, this is one of those places where we partner very closely with our healthcare partners. And then finally, the maternal, child, and family health practices that we contract with and work very closely with community VNA to provide those services. Bottom line, we prevent, we promote, and we protect. That's our purpose. Prevent disease, prevent injuries, promote healthy behaviors, healthy environments, protect the public from those things that can cause harm. And we do that through a number of different programs, mostly those pillars that were in that diagram. So first and foremost is the leadership and management. So we have to have that infrastructure in place. I provide the leadership for the department and the commission, assuring that the resources are available, that the staffing is appropriate, that we're meeting the state requirements. In my opinion, even more importantly, that we're meeting the needs of the communities that we serve. And so we have to meet those minimum requirements of the state, but much of what we do goes beyond those minimum requirements. Health promotion and health education. We have a full-time health educator on staff. Since January, since this is 2026 numbers, we've provided 15 different educational sessions. Not all of those were in Bridgewater. 6 of those were in Bridgewater. But for the vast majority of our programs, they're available to all residents within all the communities. So a program held in another town would be available to Bridgewater residents. So 6 in Bridgewater with about 150 attendees at that, with various topics focusing on mental health, falls prevention. We just recently did one in Warren on providing education to caregivers, how to lift and move, how to seek help and assistance in providing care, cancer education. Overall, with the 15 sessions, providing education and activities to over 350 residents of the commission. Some of them are things like yoga and chair-based exercises, so physical activity, various topics. And as we move into the fall, we have a few already scheduled for the balance of the year. Many of them are focused on emergency preparedness. September is Emergency Preparedness Month, so we'll do a number of educational and activities around that in the fall. Environmental health is probably what public health is most known for and most recognized for. If you ask somebody, what does public health do? They'll say we give shots and we inspect restaurants and maybe we chase rodents every now and then. We do a lot more than that. You can see the list here highlighting retail foods and recreational bathing. We held a well water testing event in the spring. We had about 30 people test their private wells at that event. A few that came up with some contaminants, most commonly bacteria contamination, which thankfully is usually an easy fix. And then the other most common was the forever chemicals, PFOAs, which I'm sure you've heard about. We have about 250 fixed retail food establishments in Bridgewater. They all get inspected at a minimum of once a year. And then on top of that, we have 50 to 100, depending upon the year and the activities, mobile and temporary events that have to be inspected and licensed. The fixed facilities are actually fairly easy. The mobile events and the temporary events, much more challenging, much more time consuming. We have to identify who's going to be at those events, make sure that they have not only the what they need in place for the mobile truck or the what they're serving at a fair or event, but that they also have approval to operate from a commissary. Typically are not in the same town that they're operating in. They're in another town, so working with other health departments to gather all that information. It takes a lot of background work to make those events happen. In addition, we do inspections for all the public pools, youth camps, tattoo, body art establishments, lead investigations. Those are very long and time-consuming investigations. It often takes a fair amount of time to identify the source of the lead exposure. Historically, it's been leaded paint in homes, but more recently, we've seen that that's transitioned more to consumer-type products and other exposures than lead paint. Moving on to our infectious disease program, I have an individual in the commission office, has his medical degree, who does the bulk of our disease investigations. He's assisted by myself and another one of my environmental health specialists who's got training in infectious diseases. In 2026, thus far, we've investigated over 550 infectious diseases. And these are Bridgewater numbers, not commission numbers. About 216 of those have been confirmed cases of infectious disease. Most of those fall within influenza and Lyme disease and other vector-borne diseases are the most frequent. Even though we have, roughly 50% of the investigations as cases, we have to investigate every one, whether they turn out to be cases or not, to make sure that they're not actually an infectious disease. By comparison, in 2025, we had over 800 cases that were investigated, 722 of them being confirmed. So we're ahead of the curve this year, mostly because of influenza. We had a pretty challenging influenza season. One of our other important disease control efforts is auditing the schools for immunization compliance, so assuring that our immunization rates are maintained and that students have the proper documentation for immunizations or exemptions from those immunizations in place. Our nursing services, we do not, thankfully, have a large need for clinical services in our populations, but we do provide some minimal clinical services for particularly childhood vaccinations and for the adult seasonal vaccines, influenza, pneumonia, COVID vaccines in the fall. We do offer a monthly child health conference for those that are underserved, underinsured, or have no insurance. Children can attend that child health conference. Those are conducted through a contract with the Community Visiting Nurse Association, and folks can schedule appointments for that. And then finally, some of our other activities, also very time-consuming activities, massage inspections and licensure. So we license the massage therapy establishments through the health department, and the inspectors inspect those. This is an ongoing challenge with assuring that there are legitimate operations, and we do that with the focus on preventing infectious diseases, particularly sexually transmitted infections. And then animal control, we have animal control right next door to us, but we are actively involved in following up on all dog bites, cat bites, exposures to wildlife for rabies infection. And in fact, I always like to point out that the required licensing of dogs and cats is actually a public health function to assure that those animals are vaccinated against rabies. And so we're really focusing on the rabies control. So that's a very quick overview with some of the volume of the work that we do. It takes a team approach. It's both the local staff and the commission staff working together, along with all of our partners in the community, to make sure that things are under control. We've been dealing most recently with, we mentioned the World Cup, but cyclosporiasis has been in the news a lot, and we've been dealing with the recalls and then the confusion in the messaging around that with the lettuce, and the lab reports aren't valid, but the epidemiology makes it clear that what the source is probable, and so educating the public and investigating those diseases. So with that, I will stop and entertain any questions or comments.
No, I just wanted to thank you, and also the radon testing. Thank you for providing us with the radon testing
Yeah,
in
we do,
Bridgewater.
particularly in the winter months. We don't do them this time of year because homes are open and you don't get a valid reading, but we apply every year through the commission for a grant from the state. Those are actually funded by the State Department of Environmental Protection, and we can purchase radon kits for distribution.
Madam President, could I just make a comment about
Sure, of
Mr.
course.
Sumner? I want to point out that early on in our receiving the benefit of his assistance, the pandemic, he was immeasurably helpful during that time. There were, as you can imagine, numerous questions from educators, educational institutions, both private and public, and many organizations, and he spent a tremendous amount of time involved in responding to individual inquiries. I participated in at least one occasion that I can recall, a telephone conference with 2 residents that lasted almost 90 minutes, and he answered every single one of their questions and seemed to do so, as I'm not an expert, very thoroughly and with tremendous knowledge, and I really appreciate that, Kevin.
Thank you.
About 35% of Bridgewater's population are people of color. About 25% of our population are Asian, and a large percentage of them are South Asian. And I'm told that one of the biggest issues among South Asians is the failure of older people to go to the doctor. Just simple thing. So I'm wondering if in one of your educational programs you could just consider something along the lines of, getting the word out there about how important it is in terms of prevention. Just go get your annual physical.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that. I would also say, and I didn't mention this, we work very closely with Healthier Somerset. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of Healthier Somerset. This is a collaboration across Somerset County, which was originally spearheaded by the health officers across the county. There's 6 of us now. And now, over the last decade or so, has been spearheaded by Robert Wood Johnson Hospital, Somerset Hospital. And their population health program brings together partners on a monthly basis. I actually sit on their board. And we do an assessment, a countywide assessment every 3 years with them, and that's one of the identified needs across the county. So it's not unique to Bridgewater. And so there is a working group within that organization that also focuses on getting that word out. And so we can make sure that we're pushing that material out a little bit more as well.
Thank you.
Council President, if I may. As Administrator Pappas mentioned, we do have some seats on the commission for Bridgewater as well as all the other towns. And those seats are not necessarily health experts, but much more operate as kind of a board of directors. And I think for the benefit of our newer council members, just so everyone is fully aware, and full disclosure, I was the treasurer of the commission last year. But one of the things is that over the last couple of years, there has been a significant decrease in some of the grants coming to the commission. Fortunately, the commission had built up a significant cash reserve that they were able to offset that. But looking long-term, it was not a sustainable model. If we took the full impact of the cuts in Bridgewater, our share probably would be just under $100,000 a year. But what the commission did last year and what the commissioners voted on is a phased-in approach over 8 years. So each year, the commission cost tends to go up about 2%. But each year over the next 8 years, it's just under $12,000 that our costs will go up, plus 2%. So what they're doing is they're phasing in that $100,000 increase over 8 years. So just understanding future years when looking at budgets and why is there more than a 2% increase? It's because of the loss of grants and a phased-in approach where they're actually spending down their reserves to prevent large increases to the municipalities.
Were these federal grants, state grants, county
A
grants?
combination of all.
Of all. And is there anything we can do to reapply or apply or get more money? I'm sure it's heavy on your mind, but.
Yeah, the bulk of those grants were COVID-related grants.
That makes sense.
They end actually this month. So that cliff is here. There was a short extension on one of them, which allowed us to go through this month, which actually allowed me to put a few more dollars into the reserve, which was helpful. The other dollars, I would say 90% of the dollars were federal pass-through grants, passed through the state, and about 10% are state grants. That 10% of the state grant is reduced this year because they took a portion of that instead of giving very small dollar amounts to the 100 or so health departments. They wanted to see larger grants going to regional efforts. And so they took the outbreak preparedness, what they call the outbreak preparedness funds, and said, instead of giving 100 grants, we're going to give 5. Somerset County worked very closely with our neighbors in some of the other counties, and we were actually the recipient of one of those grants in Somerset County. So while it will not benefit Bridgewater or any of the individual towns of the commission directly, or my budget, unfortunately, it will serve the town for preparedness activities around disease outbreaks and future. So that is state funding. So that's diluted it a little bit more. I am actively involved in our National Association of County and City Health Officials. I'm actually a past president of that organization, so still sit on their past president's council and the state association's council for that organization, and they are constantly advocating on Capitol Hill for funds and resources to go down to local health departments. Historically, there were grants that were given. Usually they're administered through the CDC, but there was never any language in those grants that assured that funds got down to the local level. Over the past, since just before COVID. Some of that language has changed, and while it's not a guarantee, it's much stronger language to assure that those, whatever funds are approved, go through the CDC, actually work their way down to the local health department. So they're still working to increase that. That's always dependent upon the federal budget, which is a challenge. But rest assured, we're very vocal.
Thank you. Anyone on the council have any other questions?
Yes, a quick comment and then a question. So first, thank you for this very comprehensive report and for the critical services you provide to our residents. Was wondering if you have either literature or are able to provide reference for residents who are seeing a transition of care needed for older parents. And in my mind, that takes on three potential flavors. Either maybe the older parent is in Bridgewater and you're in Bridgewater, so that's great. But it could also be, you know, the parent is still in Bridgewater, but the children may be elsewhere, or the reverse. So I'm sure that there are articles. You know, this is not a unique problem. Are you able to refer people to, you know, guidance, help, knowledge? You know, not necessarily talking about like, you know, where do I move mom or dad? But you know, if mom or dad is slowing down, you know, what recommendations, you know, do you have from a public health standpoint to ease some of the burdens and allow those parents to continue to age in place?
Yeah, so that was much of the focus of the recent caregiver program that we offered in conjunction with, I believe it was, I don't want to guess. I don't remember which organization it was. That's my health educator's job. Unfortunately, people don't tend to attend those sessions, so I will go back to her and ask if there were resources that were provided at that session, or if not, can that organization provide us with some resources? There's some limited information on the state website which we can highlight and distribute, but probably better to go through that organization we partnered with to get that, and I'll see what we can pull together.
So, you know, the reason I asked the question is I think faced with circumstances like that, knowledge, information, resources can bring you know, a sense of calm to what can be an upsetting situation.
Yeah, in fact, that caregiver program we ran was at a recommendation of one of the commission members who was dealing with an elderly member of the family and was not feeling sure of what he was doing, and thought, well, there should be something that we can provide. And so that's actually why we offered that specific program. So you're consistent with our thinking, and we'll see what we can find.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have two items. Just like to follow up on something that you had mentioned. You had said that you're seeing that most of the lead exposure cases are not coming from lead paint. What are they typically coming from?
Most often now we're seeing them from cosmetics and imported or transported international food products. So spices in particular are commonly contaminated with lead. And that's related to the demographics that the President mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Is there something that residents could do on their own to potentially test for whether they have contaminated products in their house?
Probably not, but we have that capability. So if we get a report, unfortunately, this is, while it's a little better than it used to be, this is one of those programs where prevention is after the fact as opposed to before the fact. So we are, under the rules, only really allowed to take action when we get a report of a child who has an elevated blood lead level. We can provide education and assistance to somebody who approaches us and asks, but we can't go to them and say, you need to do this without that elevated blood lead. So in essence, we're using children as kind of the canary in the coal mine, unfortunately. Again, it's better than it used to be. The numbers are much lower. There's more services out there, but it's still a little bit unfortunate. But we do have the capacity to test consumer products through We actually maintain that equipment in our office. It's available throughout an agreement with all the health departments in Somerset County. So if somebody suspects something, or if we get a report and we're doing an investigation, that's one of the things we will do.
Okay.
So when the average person or average parent takes their child, for their annual physical and they do blood work, will that show up in the blood work? Is that part of the testing?
It's supposed to be, and this is another education component that we do, and that's educating the healthcare providers, because not all of them test for blood lead.
That's interesting. Anything else from the dais?
One other item, and I apologies if I mispronounce this word. I think we're all learning it. The cyclosporosis outbreak. What should residents do in order to protect themselves from eating potentially tainted food?
Yeah, I'm sorry? Cyclosporiasis is commonly associated with produce. In this particular case, it appears to be related to lettuce, the iceberg lettuce that has been shredded from a particular farm, which they have recalled all of that product. It shouldn't be out on the market anymore. People shouldn't have to worry too much about that. But we always encourage, because cyclosporiasis is not the only organism that is transmitted through contaminated produce. It's actually, produce is, even though we encourage people to eat more fruits and vegetables, it's also one of the more hazardous things because we often eat it raw. We don't cook it. So cooking, heating is one way to take care of that, but also washing. And by washing, I don't mean soap and water, but rinsing thoroughly, scrubbing under running cold water will not totally eliminate, but go a long way to prevent exposure to those organisms.
Acetic acid or vinegar, that's what I put my fruit in sometimes.
And
I
that is
don't know if
not
that
actually
helps.
we don't recommend that because it can alter and some of the organisms, I'm not sure about cyclospora, are not impacted by that.
That's good to know. Any other questions from the dais? I'm going to ask you, Mr. Sumner, to stay through the public speaking. I'm going to, so if anyone in the public has any particular comments or questions that you might be able to answer, I would appreciate it.
Of course.
Moving on.
Motion to open public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
That worked out well.
It did. See, we're getting good. Members of the public wishing to address the council on any matter will have 3 minutes to speak, which may be extended in the discretion of the council president. An additional minute will be allotted for responses to comments from the dais. And I'm going to make a special comment here. There are at least 9 people signed up to speak, and I think there may be more than that who plan to speak tonight. I'm going to ask that you speak in groups. If I think there are people here, there are high school students here that are going to speak about one particular issue. I think there may be other people here speaking on a particular issue, so it might make more sense if everybody spoke in the groups that they're addressing. And because there are so many speakers, I am gonna time you. I'm not gonna tell you that I'm gonna hold you to, exactly, 3 minutes and 1 second. But at 3 minutes, I am gonna give you a warning and ask that you then, wrap it up. I'm gonna start with, is there anyone here that would like to ask any questions related to the presentation that we just had? Ms. Franco, come on up. And Anda, too, as well.
I had 2-3 questions. One was, typically, as you know, health departments in the past have been very hierarchical, state, county.
Can you talk more into the mic?
Sorry, let me,
It's okay.
it's hard to,
You don't want to speak with your back to the, understood.
sorry. Typically, health departments have been very hierarchical in nature, state, county, local. And so this newish model. I wasn't quite clear on how that works in terms of, for example, public health emergencies or situations, statistical information. Is the township still providing that upwards to the state, or is a third-party entity doing that? I was just curious. It wasn't covered in the presentation. My second thing was, I'm a member of the Municipal Alliance, and I'm wondering if there's an opportunity here to collaborate on some aspect of the work. For example, Municipal Alliance is about drug abuse prevention, which we typically think of as a certain age group, but also affects, all age ranges, and whether there are some public health presentations or forums where we could perhaps work together to provide the public that information. Thank you.
That one might not be on. You might have to press a button.
Start with the second question first, and that's the Municipal Alliance. The health educator, Amelia Dominguez, actually sits on the Bridgewater Municipal Alliance. So you can connect with her. And she's direct conduit to me. So we're already involved in that and partner there. With regard to the structure, New Jersey has a very decentralized public health system. There are some states across the country that have very centralized public health systems. Rhode Island has one health department that covers the whole state. And Florida has 100+ county-based health departments that actually all work for the state government. In New Jersey, much like most of the rest of New England and the Northeast, because of what we know of as home rule, municipalities like to maintain control, and so the public health system was based on that history. And in New Jersey, as mentioned, there were some statutory changes over the year which allows a very complicated, which I won't go into, structure that really essentially, for a local health department, you can have a county health department, you can have a municipal single health department like our neighbors in Branchburg. You can have a contractual health department, as we had originally with Bridgewater, or you can have a regional health commission, which is a separate governmental unit that is created and maintained for the sole purpose of public health services. Each of those is responsible for their municipalities, and so the data that is collected, that is available, is addressed at the municipal level. That's reported up to the state and ultimately to the CDC through our efforts. We have to do an annual report to the state. The annual report you have in your packets is nothing as boring as the one that we provide to the state, which is just a bunch of numbers and data. And in fact, just late last night, I got our annual report back from the state that demonstrated we were in compliance with all the requirements of the state, and actually exceed most of the rest of the state and the services we're providing. So that municipal home rule in New Jersey is very important, and we maintain that. Some of us across the state defend that pretty strongly for public health services, while still finding the efficiencies with those shared services across multiple municipalities.
Thank you.
Is that okay if we hold off on the next comment from Kathy Franco? Some of the other speakers that signed up early, they have to leave.
Oh,
Well, we can come back to you if that's okay. Thank you.
okay. So I think we have a group of high school students here who would like to speak on a specific topic. So I don't know which one of you wants to go first, but I know you've all signed in.
Yeah, thank you for signing in early.
Good evening, members of the Township Council and members of the public. My name is Gayatri Krishnan, and I live on 30
Well, full disclosure, Gayatri does some part-time work for me, just so everybody knows. Go ahead.
And I live on 3 Xander Lane. I'm here on behalf of the Bridgewater Youth Council to introduce our proposal to lower the voting age to 17 in Bridgewater municipal elections. Under this proposal, Bridgewater residents who are at least 17 years old would be permitted to vote for Bridgewater mayor, township council members, and members of the Bridgewater Raritan Board of Education. This change would only apply to local elections. 17-year-olds would not be permitted to vote for president, Congress, governor, or any other state or federal office. We are proposing the change in Bridgewater because the local government makes decisions that directly affects young residents, decisions involving our schools, public spaces, and local services that shape our daily lives. Yet, most high school students have no formal voice in choosing the officials who make them. 17 is also an important age to begin voting because most eligible students are still living in Bridgewater and are closely connected to the high school and other community organizations. They are learning about government in their classes, discussing current issues with teachers and classmates, and developing an understanding of their responsibility as citizens. Allowing students to vote while they are still connected to school-based civic education would give them an opportunity to learn the registration and voting processes with support. Rather than expecting young people to begin voting after they graduate and may have moved away, Bridgewater can help them develop the habit of civic participation while they are still active members of this community. This proposal is ultimately about giving young residents a meaningful stake in the town that they call home. Today, me and 5 other members from the Youth Council will be explaining the reasoning behind our proposal, address possible concerns, and discuss some precedents. We would also prefer if all the questions could be held off to the end as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Anika Lal. I live on 1020 Sunset Ridge, Bridgewater, New Jersey. So why specifically 17? One of the biggest reasons that many 17-year-olds is because they're very close to the eligible voting age. Within just 1 year, they'll be able to participate in state and federal elections, so allowing them to vote locally gives them the opportunity to start building that habit early. What's cool is that 17-year-olds are seniors in high school, which means they are currently learning about civic engagement in their classes every day. Starting off this habit early ensures that it would be a long-term success and something that they continue on to their future, whether they choose to go to college or enter the workforce. New Jersey already recognizes that 17-year-olds have a limited role in elections. For example, 17-year-olds who turn 18 by the general election are allowed to participate in certain primary elections already, showing that the state understands that young people approaching the voting age can be involved in the democratic process. Some people may question whether 17-year-olds are ready for this responsibility, but many of them already handle adult operations. 17-year-olds drive, which requires following laws, making safe decisions, and being responsible for their own actions for themselves and the others in their car. Many also work jobs where they manage schedules, earn income, and even handle their own bank accounts. They have the financial skills and the understanding ready. Through working, they also contribute to the society by paying taxes that support important services like schools, libraries, hospitals, and community programs. Beyond work, many of them contribute through volunteering and leadership. They help at food banks, parks, nonprofits, hospitals, and elementary schools. They also take on leadership roles through schools like student government voting, captains of sports teams, clubs, and community organizations, showing that society already trusts 17-year-olds with a lot of great responsibility. With parental consent, some of them can even begin military service before turning 18. This requires discipline, commitment, and strong decision-making, which are already things that they possess. Overall, they are already active members of their communities, so giving them a voice in decisions that directly affect them only benefits our community in the long run. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Sohi Shah and I live at 10 Langan Hollow Road. Many of the decisions made by the local government have a direct impact on the daily lives of 17-year-olds, which is why they deserve a voice in local elections. School boards decide curriculum, school policies, and funding for extracurricular activities. For example, the Board of Ed recently approved changes to school start times, a decision that directly affects every student. These choices shape students' educational experiences every day, influencing the opportunities and resources available to them. Local governments also determine bus routes, bike lanes, sidewalks, and safe walking paths. These choices affect how students travel to school, work, and community activities, as well as their overall safety and independence. In addition, local leaders make decisions about zoning regulations and business permits, which influence where businesses can open and grow. The recent discussions surrounding efforts to preserve Mellick's Farm demonstrate how local land use and zoning decisions can have a lasting impact on the community. These decisions also affect the availability of part-time jobs and work opportunities for many young people. Because local government already plays such a significant role in the education, transportation, and employment opportunities of 17-year-olds, it is reasonable that they have a say in electing the officials who make the decisions. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kamaya Charbel and I live on 5 Hughes Road. Lowering the voting age to 17 will impact a significant portion of the youth population in the town and add hundreds of new voters to our community. With 666 10th graders and 686 11th graders being enrolled in Bridgewater Raritan High School this past school year, there will be around 670 students in Bridgewater turning 17 soon. Purely based on this age requirement, this means that there could potentially be 600 plus more votes added to the election. While voter participation is not guaranteed, Bridgewater has a typical voter turnout of about 60%, which means that there will likely be around 300 to 400 17-year-olds actually voting in the election. Specifically in our community, many of these 17-year-olds are already involved in civic life through organizations such as 4-H, the Martin Luther King Youth Center, and the Somerset County Youth Services, as well as local school clubs like the Young Voters Club. These organizations can be used to encourage voter registration and campaign for civic engagement in strengthening the voter turnout. Lowering the voting age to 17 can strengthen representation of youth in the Bridgewater government and can bring hundreds of new voices into the democratic process, helping create a more representative electorate that reflects our entire community. Thank you.
I'm really sorry to leave in the middle of the meeting, but I had pre-scheduled conflicts, so I will not be able to stay while questioning, but I hand it all off to the Youth Council. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalia Cruz, and I live on 195 Short Hills Drive. One reason our proposal is feasible is because there are already successful examples of lowering the voting age across the country. The most relevant example is in Newark, New Jersey, where in January 2024, the voting age was lowered to 16 for school board elections. This shows that New Jersey has already begun expanding voting rights to young voters at the local level. Other states have taken similar steps. In California, Berkeley lowered the voting age to 16 for school board elections in 2016, and Oakland followed in 2020. In Vermont, Brattleboro expanded voting rights even further by allowing 16-year-olds to vote in all local elections beginning in 2023. Finally, several cities in Maryland, including Tacoma Park, Hatesville, Greenbelt, and Riverdale Park, have allowed 16-year-olds to vote in municipal and Board of Education elections since 2013. These examples demonstrate that lowering the voting age is not just a theoretical idea. It has already begun being implemented in multiple communities, providing real-world evidence that expanding youth voting can be both legal and practical. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Madison DeRosa. Allowing 17-year-olds to vote will have a beneficial impact on the future of their voting and the town. To start, studies have been conducted to find out the average voting turnout for 17-year-olds when given the chance to vote. The results showed 17-year-olds on average have a similar voting turnout as adults and regularly have a higher voting turnout than 18 to 21-year-olds, proving they want the chance to vote and don't pass it over. Secondly, voting is proven to be habit forming, meaning the younger the habit is in place, the more likely the person is to continue voting. Studies prove that it is beneficial to allow teenagers to start voting when they become cognitively capable, which happens around the age of 16. When they are allowed to vote soon after, it strengthens their habit, making voting a routine for years to come. Furthermore, allowing 17-year-olds to vote gives a fresh new perspective on the topics being discussed. Whatever the topics may be, 17-year-olds give a point of view on how it directly affects the youth of Bridgewater. Voting gives them a voice, and their outlook will favorably benefit the future of the town. Similarly, the future is in their hands. Allowing them to start young gives the benefit of strengthening their knowledge on politics and allows them to learn more about the town. Giving 17-year-olds the experience now gives them the chance to learn from the present, so a strong future is secured. To conclude, 17-year-olds deserve the chance to vote because it positively benefits their future of voting, gives the town a different lens to look through, and helps reinforce Bridgewater's future. Thank you all for hearing us out today and for considering our proposal. We truly appreciate your time, and we would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to tell you how impressive you all were. I don't know who did I guess you all wrote it together. So do we have any future lawyers in the group? Oh, I see a few nods. I was aware of the fact, and I think most of the council was aware of the fact that you were going to be here today. I can tell you my own personal opinion is I would seriously consider allowing 17-year-olds to vote. I'm not saying I would, but I'm saying I would seriously consider it. I would not be in favor of 16-year-olds voting yet. I think that's a little too young. And that's just me personally. I have been speaking to a few of the Board of Education members in terms of voting there. I think as far as the council is concerned, I don't think that this council should be the ones to say whether or not you should be able to vote in Board of Education elections. And I'm going to let the other council members comment, and then I'm going to ask our attorney to comment because I think he has the most important thing of all to say about this. And I did speak to him before the meeting as well. So does any other council members want to comment?
Is that okay. Thank you very much. I think your presentation is very impressive. I guess, do we know of any other municipalities in Somerset County that are allowing anyone under 18 to vote?
I don't think so in Somerset
Okay.
County, but we have one example in Newark, New Jersey.
I understand. The reason I mentioned Somerset County, I'm also, there's a couple pieces to this. One of it is the logistics. So that, when I say the logistics, Bridgewater's very unique in that we only have elections every other year. So every 4 years, we have an election that also includes the election for governor. In every year that we do have an election, we have state legislature as well as often federal folks on the ballot. So the question becomes, if we were to lower the age in Bridgewater, what's the process on the voting machines, the sample ballots, all of that, as far as how does it know a 17-year-old walked in to vote versus someone over 18? Meaning a 17-year-old can't vote in the state or federal portion of the election. So I think that is something we need to clearly understand. And I also think, not to say that this should be a deterrent, we're charged a prorated portion for the elections each year. So if we're undertaking something that nobody else is, we need to understand and plan for any of those potential financial implications. I very much agree with your comments as it relates to the Board of Education. I would want to see some kind of resolution from the Board of Ed fully endorsing this before we touch that. So I don't know if that's a homework assignment or a challenge for you, but I think you need to consider a similar presentation to the Board of Ed and get them to take a position on it, something to think about. And then the other thing I wrestle with, I agree with you, at 16, 17, even 18, everyone matures at a different age. Clearly, we have a very mature group here. On the flip side of that, there are 17 and probably some 18-year-olds that you question if they're mature enough to vote. And that's something I'm wrestling with, and I'm not saying yes or no, but I'm telling you that's something that I'm thinking about if this progresses further.
Yeah, that's completely understandable. And to really combat that, in Bridgewater High School specifically, there's a lot of AP courses that talk about government, politics, and current issues happening in our society right now. And I think the people that do want to vote, which is a large chunk of those people, and I know a lot of kids in my grade, they're always talking about stuff happening right now. So if they had the opportunity to vote, I think they would definitely take that chance. And like you said, the people that maybe on the flip side aren't really into it, they don't have to. But then we can also use civic engagement, like mock elections, where we can host it in our gym, and then we can simulate that process where kids can come in, show their ID, and practice how voting works.
Okay. And as you were speaking, I apologize, I thought of one more thing, and this may be something that Mr. Corsini will touch on, but there's the other piece from a school board election. It's the Bridgewater-Raritan Regional School District. So if Bridgewater allows people under 18 to vote in school board elections, how does that or not impact the borough of Raritan and whether or not they need to take similar action.
Just if I can address that, Councilman Ring, I appreciate the young ladies here tonight. To expand the franchise any further than it already has been expanded, which is 18 except 17, I have one right here. 18 except 17 if you're, as the young lady said, going to be 18 by the general election. To expand the franchise beyond that would require state legislative action. Newark, I think, perhaps has acted beyond what the state legislature has contemplated, which is fine. I mean, no one has challenged that, but it's just simply impossible to expand the franchise without legislative action. I would suggest the young ladies write to Governor Sherrill and their state legislators. There may already be bills. You and I spoke about this, Council President, perhaps Senator Zwicker or someone locally has introduced a bill, and I would suggest that you ladies reach out to him and encourage him to pursue it, but it's not legal for us.
And I think one of the things we discussed was if there was an election that had been decided by a handful of votes, then there might be a challenge to it, right?
So you and I had a very productive discussion about this earlier today, Council President. I think that Newark, with the best intentions, has put forward this proposal. I think that if an election were, as you just said, were decided by a handful of votes, I believe the courts would look at this.
So now you're learning how complicated it is and how complex it is when you're on this side of the dais,
It can't
right?
be a yes or either yes or no from this body. I'm sure there's some agreement and good discussion, but it is purely a matter for the governor and the state legislature, who should be engaged. I would recommend each of you take your articulate arguments to them. I don't think there are people on this dais who could put you in touch with legislators who could help you.
So, yeah, I'd like to comment. So first, really want to compliment you on your passion and preparation. Share a brief personal story at the risk of revealing my age, which is public record anyway. I can distinctly recall being involved in learning what was going on in the world at a very young age, specifically watching the CBS Evening News of Walter Cronkite. So I see a couple of people in the audience saying, yep, I remember that too. And I can distinctly remember the 1976 election, which obviously I was not nearly old enough to vote in, but my parents were, and I can recall going to the voting place with them. I can recall discussing, obviously they made the decision, not me, discussing as a family, who was on the ballot and what were they going to do. So independent of this inquiry that you've made, I do encourage that as an alternative in the short term to, make sure that at your kitchen and dinner tables that you actively discuss local, state, county, and any other matters so that your family can know and hopefully cultivate your interest. That was noted that I think 60% of Bridgewater residents vote. Well, hopefully if any of your parents are among that minority that does not, bringing these issues to the forefront will get them on board with voting. I'll also mention that I was involved in presidential campaigns as early as 1984. So certainly getting involved in campaigns at whatever age you may be is always an option, and that includes at the local level. So I would encourage you, I believe we have a filing deadline coming up soon for school board elections. If it has not already passed, I would certainly encourage you to get to know who those candidates are, and if any one or more of them are to your liking, I would imagine that any or all of them would be very willing to have youthful voices and youthful legs to walk the community on their behalf. As was pointed out by Mr. Corsini, I just don't think that we have the authority on the municipal side. I also think that I personally have considerable concerns about what a registration process would look like. It's been reported in the news this week that, I don't know, 6,000 New Jersey residents who are not legally permitted to register to vote have in fact been on our voter rolls. 400 of them voted in a recent election. Illustrates to me that our state infrastructure is not capable at this point of even identifying those who are over 18 and meet the requirements. So I would be very concerned about the ability for the state voter registration system to differentiate between 18-year-olds or 18 and above who can vote in every for every office versus some other age that can only vote for certain offices. Candidly, I don't think they could manage it. I don't think they could handle it at all. The Newark was pointed out as an example. I think was an interesting idea, but I believe that the number of youth who actually fulfilled and voted was exceptionally low. So while certainly you are all the exceptions, and that's outstanding, I think the data shows us that in New Jersey, when given the opportunity to vote, younger than 18, they just didn't do it. I think potentially going to the school board, letting them know of your interest is a good starting point, but please don't take that as a commitment to action, because I think that there are some other impediments that are there. But in the meantime, certainly being involved, being aware of what's going on in Bridgewater, beyond our borders, nationwide, worldwide is wonderful. Hopefully it'll lead to a lifelong passion for current affairs and ultimately public service.
Thank you so much for your feedback, and we really appreciate the thoughts that everybody had, and we'll definitely do our homework and our research a little bit more, and we'll probably reach out to the person that made the original bill, because like you guys said, you can't really do anything on municipal level, and we completely understand that. But thank you so much for your time, and we truly appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for coming. It was a pleasure.
I would also like to thank you for the presentation and just coming up to speak. I know how nerve-wracking that can be. I do not think that the technology problem is one that would be insurmountable as far as presenting to a voter the ballot for only the offices that they were entitled to vote for. And I would point to the way that Somerset County has been able to perform the early voting period, where you can, a voter in Somerset County can go to the polling place anywhere within Somerset County for early voting that will have in the system the offices that they can vote for. So that would mean their local candidates for local or school board elections. So that's all there. I think that's...
It would only work if they voted early.
Well, that's true, but I think it just shows that the technology of the voting systems, the voting machines, can differentiate between different voters and what to present them on the ballot. So I don't think that is a problem that is insurmountable. I understand that it obviously would be a challenge, but I don't think it's one that is is unsolvable. Secondly, I know that Newark has been brought up, and yes, the turnout of eligible 16 and 17-year-old voters was quite low. However, I believe they did turn out greater than 18 and above as a percentage of those who were registered. So when given the opportunity, obviously, a motivated population will vote. And I know we all have probably heard of the issue that occurred with the motor vehicle system in incorrectly registering ineligible residents as voters. And I mean, I know that there are a lot of very capable and dedicated people who work for our motor vehicle commission, but I mean, I think that it's not a surprise that the motor vehicle messed something up. I mean, I don't know if you've received any correspondence from them, but they are now sending you notices saying that they are going to send you a notice. So, I think that's probably not, it'll be a problem that's going to be solved. But generally speaking, the difference between a non-adult and an adult is a very fine line. One day you fall asleep, you're 17, the next day you're 18, and now you're suddenly an adult. And I think that we as just a government, just from the local level on up, need to do a better job in preparing and transitioning youth into adulthood. Because, like I said, you wake up one day and now you're an adult, and it's changed since I've turned 18. You can't buy cigarettes and a couple other things you can't do anymore that you once were able to do when you were 18. But still, the point is that, suddenly you're an adult and the world suddenly changes, and it's kind of like falling over a cliff and into a whole new world. And I think we can do a better job at transitioning our young people over that and preparing them for a successful adulthood. But thank you very much for the hard work that went into this. And I think as other individuals up here has said, don't stop your advocacy, keep it up.
And thank you for all I think they have a lot of action items now, so definitely, take all of this advice, BOE, similar presentation, follow up with the state legislation, the mock election. So I would suggest contacting the county superintendent and understanding the technology, the sample ballot, the capabilities that we have. So we have, amazing suggestions here. And from my personal perspective, I remember when I was 17, I had to make a decision to take on really, really expensive student loans to go to an Ivy League school. And I decided to go to a public college instead. So if 17-year-olds are asked to make life-changing decisions at 6 figures plus, taking a student loan, you have to pay it back, interest or no interest. I think voting is just one other thing that they might be ready for if they're asked to make a decision between going to college or starting work early. I did both. I worked full-time while going to a lot of years in college. So, thank you again for the really nice presentation.
Thank you very much.
We'll definitely take all the feedback and keep pushing for what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would, we've held the health officer here for quite a while. Is there anyone else that has questions for Mr. Sumner?
And thank you both, Kathy Franco and Kevin Sumner, for your patience and changing the order.
Hi, so Kathy Franco, Martinsville. This is just about the health presentation, and thank you, Mr. Sumner, for the presentation. It was wonderful. I was wondering if the slideshow that you presented here tonight is available either online with Bridgewater or with Middlebrook for the public to be able to see, because it was not showing during the meeting for people at home to watch later on YouTube.
Yeah, I can certainly make that available. My only concern is that it's very outline driven.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that and I understand that, but thank you. Also, you talked about a lot of programs, and I've seen those advertised for Warren Township and other townships because I subscribe to a lot of different townships' websites. For those programs, the caregiver program, it was not obvious that it was available to Bridgewater residents and residents of other members of the consortium. So is that something that either Middlebrook, when it presents it, or or Bridgewater residents indeed invited to attend those programs if they're being held at the Warren, library, and how do we make that known to residents in other members of Middlebrook?
Yeah, I can take that back as a suggestion and see if we can change some of the language. We do distribute them through all of the municipalities as well, so through the local distribution systems. Obviously, we at the commission can't control what's distributed by each town, but we send them to each town to be distributed, so hopefully that also lets
Right.
people know that they're available to
Okay, so hopefully in the future, like Bridgewater, when it receives that, will also post it on their website to make it a knowledge, make the township knowledgeable that we can attend a program being held in Warren on a health issue. Okay, also, you talked about low attendance at like the caregiver program, and I think one of the issues with that might be, would it be possible to have it, available on a Zoom or something where, because if you're a caregiver, part of the problem is getting out of the house to attend these programs. So, would that be possible to?
Yeah, that's really program dependent. We do offer a lot of online education and training.
Okay.
It's just depending on the partner and their availability and the program that they're offering, sometimes it's not conducive to that online setting. So that's really program specific.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Kathy, do you have anything else you want to address while you're at the podium? Okay, well, you're like close to 3 minutes as it is, so I'm going to ask you to just, might as well speak while you're here, but try to keep it short, because I know we have a lot of other people that want to speak tonight.
Okay, so I don't know where to start with this because, I know we are not getting our tax bills yet. I did want to make a correction to what Mayor or Representative Pappas had said. The health officer actually who was in place in 2019 did not resign in 2020. The mayor did not renew her employment or her contract.
That's not correct. That's not correct. She resigned early in 2020 and became the health officer in Branchburg Township. You're speaking of the Director of Human Services.
No, I'm speaking of the health person, the person
That's
in
not
charge.
correct. That's not correct.
Well, that's not my understanding or my recollection of it.
She became the health officer in Branchburg Township. I can't remember her name, but she was here like 2 or 3 months and she left.
No, I'm talking about the person who had been in place for 2 or 3 years, okay? So let's not make that conversation be part of my 3 minutes, please, okay? I also want to ask about, I know that there's a corrective action plan for, the audit. I do appreciate the oral response given tonight. Is there going to be something online with that? And can we also expect the audit to be available online tomorrow if indeed this council, approves it, certifies it, whatever it is they do?
Mr. Pappas?
It will be online as soon as possible. We'll hope to have it online tomorrow. I cannot absolutely guarantee that, but it certainly would be available for public inspection.
Is the resolution that outlines the correct, or?
Yeah, the corrective action plan would be online, but I can't at this moment guarantee the audit would be online tomorrow.
Gotcha.
The only reason I ask about the corrective action plan is in the past, corrective action plans have not appeared online, or there have not been links that the public has been readily able to locate. So would those be readily able to be located?
Corrective action plan, it will be approved by the governing body by resolution, and it's a separate document, and certainly it's available.
Okay, data centers, I've spoken about this before, and is this council looking towards banning these as other townships have done? I would hope that you would be looking to ban them. Also, I have a question about, we recently had flash flooding again, warnings coming from Somerset. I have a wonderful film in my front yard where flooding was coming into my yard. So who do I take that to in the township to show them how the road above me is not properly, draining, and instead is draining onto my property? So who would I go visit and bring a copy or show that video to? Besides showing it on my Facebook page.
You can submit it to the Office of Constituent Relations, and they would then have a record of it and pass it on, probably to Public Works and Engineering. That would be my request.
Okay, thank you. And
In addition to the video, maybe mention when it started, if something that you lived here, if you've lived here for a while, if it's something
I've
that
lived in
happened.
this household for over 35 years.
This is the first time it happened?
No, this is not the first time it's happened, and it's not the first time that I've got a record of it. However, part of the problem used to be also from Weemac Road down my driveway. Now that part has been resolved, and now it's strictly Hillcrest Road, which I can demonstrate. And I have a rock wall where you can see water flowing through the rocks onto my front lawn.
Quick follow-up question. Did the water stay on the lawn and
No,
eventually drained, or did it end up in your home?
Well, so because the rain only lasted for about 20 minutes, it was able to go past my garage and down my side yard, where it once again ripped up my side yard and then flowed down the hill. In the past, I have had to take, those blue things that you use to, keep a.
I know there's a lot
cover
of other
down.
people that want to speak tonight, so.
Well, no, he asked a question, so
I know,
I'm just
I
answering.
understand.
And I have had to use those instead of sandbags in front of my house to prevent water from coming into my house and into my garage. So, this is not a totally new problem, but it's a continuing problem, and now I can show that it's from Hillcrest Road that is still a problem.
Thank you very much. All right, who is next on the sign-up sheet?
Is there anybody else for Kevin?
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Is there anybody else for Kevin? Mr. Sumner, you can go home.
Thank you so much.
Unless you want to stay and listen to the rest of it. You're welcome to stay. I don't want to kick you out, but.
Have a good night, sir.
And again, hang on a second, I'm going to ask people to really, I'm not going to cut you off at exactly 3 minutes, but I know there's a lot of people who want to speak tonight, so I want to make sure everybody has a chance and doesn't have to leave before they have a chance to speak. So,
Okay. Andy O'Hearn, O-H-E-A-R-N, 135 Waltersbrook Drive. This statement was written by Howard Teichman, 60 Fairmount Avenue, Bridgewater, and I'm reading it on his behalf as he is unable to attend this meeting. At the last council meeting, a gentleman from Branchburg got up here to oppose a data center. He said that the proposed data center was expected to be about 400,000 square feet. He also stated that the plan included destruction of the current Graymark office building and its replacement by a data center. He was interrupted and criticized by council members Ring and Kirsch, who both said that no plan had been submitted that mentions a data center on this property. These two councilmen said there was no basis for the 400,000 square foot estimate and that the existing building would be retained. Mr. Kirsch told the man he should do his homework. Now let's look at the facts. On March 17, 2026, the Planning Board considered an application for preliminary major subdivision approval for this property. The filings by the developer are on the township website. One sheet is labeled a concept plan and identifies a data center with 2 phases. When I'm finished speaking, I will hand the clerk a copy of this document. Each of the 2 phases has 2 possible sizes for the data center. The larger sizes, when added together, total approximately 360,000 square feet. Phase 1 is for the undeveloped piece of the property. Phase 2 shows a second data center where the current medical office building is. I will also hand the clerk copies of a newspaper article written about the April 24th, 2025 meeting at which the redevelopment plan for this property was adopted by the council. This article states that Michael Sullivan, the planner who prepared the redevelopment plan for the township, estimated that the data center would be about 400,000 square feet. The article also quotes an expert in data centers speaking as part of the developer's team at the meeting, referring to AI, artificial intelligence, in connection with this data center. The minutes of this meeting, which I have also reviewed, confirm that these statements were made. Further, the concept plan diagram included in the redevelopment plan adapted by adopted by the council in 2025, shows a proposed building, and the first words used to describe the possible uses of that building are, in quotes, data center. So from an oral and written submissions of the developer plus the township's own planner on this project, we know that at least 2 plans have been submitted for a large AI data center, that the estimated size of the proposed data center is 360,000 to 400,000 square feet, and that the developer's concept plan includes demolition of the existing office building. We also know that the gentleman from Branchburg is owed an apology by Mr. Ring and Mr. Kirsch, who need to do their homework. And with that, I'll present the...
Thank you very much. I don't know, would anyone from the dais like to respond to that?
Just very briefly, a concept plan is not an actual application.
Can you repeat that right into the microphone very clearly and loudly?
A concept is like a courtesy review. It is not an application. It is someone who says, hey, I have an idea. What are your thoughts about it?
So there is no active plan. As part of the redevelopment agreement, part of the redevelopment process, there is no active plan right now for a data center at that or any other location in Bridgewater.
Is that correct?
I think the question is, we define the word plan. Typically, a site plan application is a formal application that is considered by a land use board. And I think people are using terms differently. Concept plan is very, very different. Just earlier today, there were 2 property owners who came and met with our planner and engineer with concept plans. They have ideas for particular parcels. This is done regularly. We make ourselves available. They have to pay a fee for the time of our professionals, but those are concepts. I don't know if that helps.
There's no site plan, and there is a redevelopment. The council declared an area needed redevelopment last year, of which there are several uses, one of which is a data center. There is no site plan.
And there is no active application before the planning board.
Not to my knowledge. I think I would know.
And unless there is a plan submitted and a hearing and an approval, there would be no construction permits issued, correct?
Yeah, you're light years away from that.
Has the town entered into any agreements with respect to a data center?
I mean, this is a matter of active litigation, and there have been discussions related to that litigation, and I'm not comfortable speaking about it any further than I already have, because the matter isn't an active litigation, as has always been my opinion on these matters.
Anda?
Good evening.
Oh, by the way, just, you did use a little bit of time, and again, I'm not going to hold you to it, but I am going to be more careful than I usually am about allowing speakers, okay?
Anda Citroyan, Martinsville section of Bridgewater. This statement was written by Howard Teichman, 60 Fairmount Avenue, Bridgewater, and I'm reading it on his behalf as he is unable to attend this meeting. This statement concerns the property at 1200 Route 22. In 2025, the Township Council approved a redevelopment plan that would allow a large AI data center on this property. An application for a data center would be heard by the Planning Board as a permitted use. As I will explain, the Council can prevent this, and it should do so. On April 24th, 2025, the Council adopted Ordinance Number 25-05. This ordinance approved a redevelopment plan for this property. I have studied both the ordinance and the redevelopment plan very carefully. The next step is for the township to enter into a redevelopment agreement with the developer with the council's approval. So far, that has not happened. Without a signed and approved redevelopment agreement, this project cannot proceed before the planning board. Therefore, the current council has the power to stop this. I have reviewed many articles on large AI data centers, and I believe that the redevelopment plan approved by the 2025 council is inadequate and does not protect the residents of Bridgewater. Articles about the problems caused by these large data centers and the reaction of many communities, as well as the state of New Jersey, come out almost every day. The problems include electricity usage and generation, fuel storage, water use, power sourcing from renewable energy, thermal impact, and noise. The redevelopment plan concerning 1200 Route 22 seems to address the issue of noise, but deals with none of the other problems. The redevelopment plan, upon which a redevelopment agreement would be based, is deeply flawed. It is a bad plan for Bridgewater. Another deficiency in the redevelopment plan is there are too many unknowns. Under this plan, the developer could propose a terrible monstrosity of a data center, and then the planning board would have to consider it as a permitted use. A better path would be to revert to the existing zoning under which a data center is not a permitted use. That would require the property owner to apply to the Zoning Board of Adjustment and demonstrate the positive and negative criteria for a D1 use variance. That would provide the public with the necessary protection. Therefore, I call on the council to do one of the following. Option 1, adopt a new ordinance repealing Ordinance 2505, which would require the developer to proceed under the existing zoning. Option 2, amend Ordinance 2505 to delete all references to data centers from the redevelopment plan. Option 3, decline to approve any redevelopment agreement with any developer for this site. I hope you will protect the citizens of Bridgewater by choosing one of these options. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there are other people that want to talk about data center, I'm assuming. So I don't know if anyone from the dais wants to comment now or hold their comments or
I
not
think in light of
comment.
Mr. Corsini's comments, I don't think we should be commenting further.
Mr. Corsini, you agree?
As I previously stated, Council President, I do agree.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Sherry Russ, 19 Reimer Street, Somerville. I want to have us consider the power, water, and air quality impacts of the proposed AI data center in Bridgewater and the surrounding towns. And I understand it's a concept of a plan, so this is a concept of things you should consider. The developer did propose a 400,000 square foot AI data center, as previously mentioned, and I'm presenting a very high-level estimate based on publicly available information of the impacts of a 400,000 square foot AI data center. It will use between 150 and 300 megawatts of electricity. This is enough to power 175,000 to 350,000 average U.S. households. Bridgewater is home to 16,505 households. So you can see that we would have to ramp up significantly our use of electricity. This AI data center could consume 486 to 972 million gallons of water annually, and that equivocates to about 16,500 households. So in order to support this data center, we have to have the infrastructure available in place for it. Our local electrical delivery would have to increase significantly. So the power companies are just going to make more power, right? So how could this impact us? But it depends on a myriad of factors, but a solid estimate is at least a 20% kilowatt per hour cost increase. And if the power infrastructure must be built, as obviously it would have to be, here, because we've got 16,000 households versus 350,000, the cost of that will be a capital investment that will have to be picked up by somebody. This cost isn't the only concern, and we should learn from those who built before us. The massive energy demands of Nevada's AI data centers caused Liberty Utilities to announce that it's going to just stop providing electricity to 49,000 California residents in the Tahoe Basin by May of 2027. So Tahoe is home to very wealthy people, but their wealth didn't insulate them from having to deal with this problem. So imagine you've got a year to find an alternative source of power for your home. How would you go about doing that? AI data centers use diesel generators as backup power, which come with their own set of issues. Diesel exhaust releases immense amounts of fine particulate matter, nitrogen dioxide, and these are linked to respiratory diseases and asthma. Massive banks of generators running during emergencies or during utility demand response creates a disruptive 24/7 noise that heavily degrades the quality of life in surrounding communities. And I understand we did talk about the noise ordinance, but I invite any of you to go and visit any AI data center and measure the noise. We also see that the scale of water consumption will cause major depletion in our aquifers and strain our municipal water infrastructure. And this is why we're in a third year of drought. The water evaporates into the clouds, makes its way back, and is periodically flushed out, but the water that is returned is contaminated with chlorine dioxide, phosphates, heavy metals, and thermal pollution. So clean water goes in, and water that flows out is not usable. I propose that Bridgewater passes an ordinance to ban AI data centers until there are answers to these and other devastating impacts, because the downsides far outweigh any possible benefit.
Thank you very much.
Well, I would like to just say that I share your concern about let's say the backup generators that would be on site at a data center, AI or not, and not the chance, because that's I don't think that's the correct word, but that they would be used not just for backup during a loss of power to the entire area, but as a replacement when demand is high. And that is a reality. I have worked for companies who have in the past had on-site generation capacity for backup that the local utility has said, hey, we'll pay you to stop using commercial power for a couple hours today and run your building off of the generation capacity that they know that you have, and that's a no-brainer as far as the dollars and cents go, but the noise and the pollution is a real problem that can generate. And I do think that there is some need for us to consider the regulation of such generator use when it isn't a loss of power emergency.
Just quickly, I have a question for Mr. Corsini. If we were to have any site in Bridgewater that required a substantial backup generator, would that be considered an auxiliary building or an auxiliary structure of some kind?
It would just depend on how it was situated on the site. It would just depend on how it was situated on the site. It's a hard hypothetical to answer.
All right, then let me ask a second question. Independent of any backup generator, is it fair to say that anyone who wants to come online in Bridgewater or any other community would require a certain amount of electricity and or water? They'd have to be able to draw that from the existing utility, and if they can't draw that from the existing utility, then I guess the plan is not viable.
That's accurate, but probably more the domain of an engineer. But it's on. I mean, I don't really. My microphone is on, guys. So I really.
Look into this one.
So I guess this one's not working, and I apologize. So it seems accurate, Councilman, but I think it would be more the domain of an engineer.
All right. Well, I mean, that's very fair, but I mean, again, we don't have an engineer on the dais, but I think whether you're talking about any use, if you want to build something and cannot access the amount of electricity or water or anything else, if you can't draw that to your location, then it's not a viable plan. I just think that's true of any use in any location.
Well, I do want to point out that there have been, there are examples of specifically AI data center usage where the local power capacity was insufficient and the operators of the facility have brought in diesel generator trucks to power the facility and make up the difference that the local utility could not provide. So,
and I would think that as part of any application for this or any other use at that or any other property, that would need to be part of the planning board's consideration. And I would presume that the planning board could and potentially would say that bringing on trucks, or other ways to generate power are unacceptable.
I would hope so. However, in the examples we can find, and I'll send you one separately. There have been the attempts by local officials to curtail their use have been met with opposition by higher levels of government, whether it was the state or the federal government, saying that you can't stop this firm from doing that. But
I just want to remind my colleagues on the dais here, we have an opinion from our attorney that this property is in active litigation. We should not be commenting on it. So when we comment for or against data centers, we are potentially impacting litigation before us.
Very confused because I wasn't aware of the fact that there was any litigation before us that dealt specifically with data centers.
Well,
and
there's
that's all I'm
litigation
gonna say.
associated with this property and a zoning board application.
Fair enough.
And a settlement.
I'm sorry, you said that there was a settlement. Is that
Settlement discussions.
okay? Are the details of that going to be made public?
That is not, I'm not commenting further on the advice of our attorney. If and when there is, presumably, yes, they would be made public.
On the advice of counsel, you will not hear me make any more comments on this subject, just so the public is aware.
Yeah, and I think we have more people speaking on this. So I have a comment not regarding any pending applications, litigation, so I'll hold my comment until after everyone's done talking on this topic.
Ms. Joya?
Carolyn
By the way,
Joya.
for those of you wondering, after we're done with the data center discussion, we are going to take a 5-minute break.
Carolyn Joya, 1402 Paley Court. Thank you for at least starting a discussion. I think the idea was some people were saying that they thought we might need an ordinance. So we're not talking about any specific property or application or concept of a plan. But the idea that if the council would consider the idea of some sort of ordinance regarding data centers in the future. Okay, obviously, it wouldn't affect anything that's already agreed to or potentially settling on. But this is the time to have those conversations, because if you wait too long, it's at the planning board and you wind up with what you had last Tuesday with 500 people participating.
That was zoning board.
Excuse me?
That was zoning board, not planning board.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying you would wind up, whether it's planning or zoning, if you don't address these things early.
They're very different circumstances.
Okay, I'd be happy for you to comment after my 3 minutes. Okay, I just really didn't even come up to talk about that, but that sort of transpired while I was...
I am timing people pretty carefully, so I'm going to ask everybody on the dais to hold their comments so that I can give the people a fair amount of time.
Thank you. I really came up here to say thank you. I wanted to thank the Office of Constituent Relations for handling the zoning board meeting so well, especially Suzanne Maters. She had the YouTube overflow room worked seamlessly. Thank you, Suzanne. You've been fabulous. We had 300 people in this building. We had 200 people online, and we had over 2,000 people have already viewed that meeting online. So without YouTube and without Suzanne, I don't think this would have been possible. So thank you. We had tremendous media coverage, everything from the patch to USA Today. We even had a social media post from a congressional candidate who lives in Bridgewater, who is now talking about September 22nd and encouraging people to come. So yes, it's out there. And what happened is people realized Bridgewater is this wonderful place where we have, farm stands and agriculture and 4-H fairs and that kind of thing. So I think it's positive. I think it's all positive publicity for Bridgewater. So thank you for everyone who is involved. I do want to mention that regarding data centers, there's currently a petition floating around. I don't know who started it. A couple of days ago, they had a goal of 200 names, so that they're asking the council to consider an AI data center ordinance. They're now up to 465 people in like 2.5 days. So the interest is there if you want to consider it. Regarding the health comment about cyclospora, I just want to add one thing we can do is to buy local produce while we still have it. But my main comment here regarding data centers is to sort of take the macro picture. I'm more concerned about the micro picture. Yes, there might be concern of a 400,000 square foot data center, but I don't know if anyone has considered something that's going on right now by a company called Prime Group Holdings. They actually own Prime Storage on Route 28. What's happening there is they have announced publicly that they are going to aggressively pursue, I'd say aggressively, no, they are pursuing the development of a network of edge micro AI factories. And these would take place in things like storage facilities, which they are very, they own a lot of them, 330 across the country. It's a $7 billion asset base of this company. And what they do is they are able to repurpose the use of storage facilities that may not be up to capacity and offer other business opportunities. So it's a way for data centers to try to sort of become more available in the local communities and create a broader network attached to maybe a larger center. So something to keep in mind.
We're at 4 minutes, if you could wrap it up.
That was it. I was just going to thank the Youth Council for coming up here and doing what they did, because this is...
Well, in that case, you can keep going.
This is not easy, and if any of them are here in the room, I would encourage them to just to continue and come to the zoning meetings too. Come to the planning board meetings. You'll learn a lot, and you'll be 18 before you know it. And also at the federal level, I know Elizabeth Warren is pursuing the Youth Voting Rights Act. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the extra time.
Is there anyone else that wants to address data centers specifically? Okay.
Hi, my name is Dawn Cohen. I'm actually not a Bridgewater resident. I'm a resident of Montgomery, New Jersey, just down the road from you guys. I am here to also urge you to prevent the construction of a data center. Whatever happens to you guys will spill over into neighboring communities in terms of things like water use, electricity use, air quality, et cetera. I urge you to the extent possible, do what Montgomery has done, which is pass an ordinance banning data centers as a use in town. We also passed an ordinance to prevent the construction of detention centers in the same ordinance. They have many of the same risk factors for the community. So I would urge you to consider that as well. But, data centers are very, very impactful. And, people move out to these communities because we are looking for a particular, quality of life, and the data centers will definitely impact. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wants to talk about this topic?
So I'll add my comment if they're done. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, I think we see a theme here starting from when our Health Commissioner Kevin Sumner spoke about prevention, right? The students also talked a little bit about what their concerns are. They mentioned, like, for example, bus routes changing. But I think the biggest one that we recently went through was the audit, which we'll talk about later. But you heard this terminology, corrective action plan. That's what we call it in the Finance Budget Committee. But in my pharma background, we actually call it corrective and preventative action, right? CAPA, that's what I mentioned earlier. So I think that's the theme here. We're trying to prevent. What can we do to not just investigate the root cause, eliminate any defects, but we also want to fix proactively potential problems from happening in Bridgewater, right? So I think that's the theme here. And again, I don't want to comment on anything that's currently under review, but that preventative mindset is very important tonight. Thank you.
Motion to take a 5-minute break?
Well, is there anyone else that was planning on speaking tonight? You're the only one? Is it your turn? Oh, then we will take the break, if that's okay. Can I have a second? If you were the only one, I was going to not make us wait for, not make you wait, but there are a couple other people. So can I have a second to the motion to take a break? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Let's take a roll call.
No, you don't need to. Your voice is fine. I mean, unless
It's procedural, you can do whatever.
Is anybody else opposed?
As a courtesy to the request, I'll vote yes.
What, you're opposed?
No, I'm voting yes to
Yeah.
take a break.
I'm
It
voting
was
yes to
requested
take a
by
break,
one of the
too.
5 of us.
Andrew,
As a
are you a
courtesy,
yes?
I will grant it.
Yes, I'll take a
Okay, thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Okay, we are back on. So if everyone wants to take their seats, and would the next public speaker want to come and address the council? Hello, Mr. Pedroso.
Hi, good evening.
Haven't seen you in a while.
You missed me?
Did you signed in, right?
I did sign in.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Good evening. I hope you all had having a nice summer. Last November, Bridgewater voters made one thing crystal clear. They demanded change. After 6 years under Mayor Minch, who earned the title of tax king by raising municipal taxes nearly 30% and sewer bills by 33%, residents had simply had enough. Voters demanded an end to endless tax hikes, out-of-control borrowing, and poor governance. During my time on the council, I proudly cast the low no votes against those reckless budgets. And even though that wave of voter frustration cost me my seat, I agreed with the voter sentiment. Bridgewater desperately needed real change. Like so many of my fellow residents, I waited to see that change. But over 6 months in, the bitter reality is that things haven't gotten better. They've gotten worse. Instead of relief, this new Democratic Council majority has delivered big disappointments. Number one, board appointments. Instead of choosing members based on individual merit and qualifications, appointments are now driven by identity politics and the divisive social considerations. That is in progress. Number two, skyrocketing debt. Before the election, Councilman Bucco stood at this microphone preaching fiscal restraint. Today, total silence. Just halfway through this year, this council has already approved over $15 million in new debt bonds for tax king Mayor Minch. To put that in perspective, that's half the total amount raised by taxation for the entire year. Number three, overdevelopment. Residents begged for protection against overdevelopment. Yet, when presented with the mayor's high-density housing plan, this council rubber-stamped over 600 new high-density and apartment units that will crowd our roads and strain our schools, resulting in increased costs and taxes. Number four, public participation. Before taking office, Council President Geiger often complained about the strict 3-minute time limits on public comment. Now that she holds the gavel, she has tightened the grip even further, strictly enforcing the clock and shutting down public dialogue, especially when she doesn't like what she's hearing. Number five, your tax bill. Instead of fighting for struggling families, this council approved Mayor Minch's 10% tax increase budget this year without a peep. That brings tax king Mayor Minch's total municipal tax increase to an astonishing 42% since he took office. Bridgewater voters asked for change, but instead we got more debt, higher taxes, overdevelopment, a prejudicial government, and less of a voice. The new Democratic majority had every chance to stand up for our town, but they choose to rubber stamp the same failed policies of tax king Mayor Minch. Bridgewater deserves better. I thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Yes.
You can also do it after you speak, though. You can do it after you speak if you want.
What did you want to, because you can sign in ahead of time if you want.
My name is Curtis Kraut. I live at 199 Adamsville Road. I strongly support a lot of the comments that have been made this evening regarding the data center. However, another long-time open issue with the Graymark property, which is what is applicable to the redevelopment plan that's been passed that permits a data center and other things as well, is that prior to the adoption of the redevelopment plan, there was a resolution adopted by the council back in 2022, 2023 timeframe to amend the master plan to remove warehouse use from specific zones within the township. One of those zones is the M1B zone. The M1B zone is the prior designation of the Graymark site, which had an open application for warehouse on that property. The basic question for Mr. Corsini and Mr. Pappas is whether or not the resolution at this point in time to change the land use ordinance to remove the warehouse use from the M1B zone and the other applicable zones that were identified in that master plan change has been formally filed and is in effect with the county and full effect within the township for future projects.
Yes.
So it is not that is not an open issue.
For future projects, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Madam President, just so that this constituent is not misled, there is still an active,
The redevelopment zone, he asked me if the ordinance was filed.
I didn't ask about litigation or anything.
Yeah, I think
but just so that it's very clear, there is still an active application with the zoning board that is subject to litigation.
Right.
That is unimpacted.
I think Mr. Crowd is aware of that.
I'm sorry?
I just want to make sure that there's no miscommunication, that there is still an active application before the zoning board.
There is still an active application.
Correct. I want to make sure that that's perfectly clear and well known.
I think Councilman Kirsch is right to make sure we're clear here. I think Mr. Kraut understands, but the redevelopment plan that's in place, warehouse is a use in that plan that was approved by this council last year. But you asked me if the ordinance was properly filed, that was proposed, and it was, so.
Independent of the warehouse application.
Okay.
The question was,
Independent of the warehouse.
is the resolution formally adopted and in place in the township at this point? In other words, any future application for a warehouse on any M1B zone or whatever in the township would not be done with an authorized use of installing a warehouse.
We need to go to the zoning. Administrative Pappas, I'm just making sure there's no, yes.
Okay.
There is the site there's the site and then there's the rest of the town, which is what you're talking about, and yes. It has been filed and
There is an existing application for a warehouse.
I just want to make sure that, I agree with Councilman Kirsch, I want to make sure we're very clear.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think we have another speaker.
Okay, I do promise to be very, very brief. I was not really prepared. I did not prepare a statement. I like to make my statements more from the heart. Tomorrow, very
Yeah, could you just say your name?
My name is Jerry Zitch. I'm at 202 Adamsville Road. Tomorrow, I actually go to my friend's family's house in northern New Jersey. His daughter just had brain surgery. And he asked me, being that I've been in healthcare for 35 years, he asked me, what should he do? Where should he go? And I said, look, go to the best person that I've heard of. And I sent him to this person. And do me a favor, when you go to that person, please ask them this. If this was your family member, what would you do? What would you do? Would you do that surgery? What would you do? This is your family member. This is your daughter. This is your son. I ask the same thing of this, and I understand. There's a lot of talk, hopefully, still to go about this data center. But if this was your house, and if you're across the street or behind this place, how would you feel on a personal level? I mean, really, really think about it. How would you feel about it going up next to your house, across the street from your house, in your neighborhood? That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much. Is anyone else? Can I have a motion to close public?
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. There are no public hearing and final action ordinances. That moves us on to the introduction of an ordinance. An ordinance amending Chapter 182, snow and ice removal of the municipal code of the Township of Bridgewater to require snow clearance near fire hydrants. Mr. Pappas, you want to just give a short, brief explanation?
Sure. The mayor had proposed this. I think he had spoken at the last meeting. He was contacted by all the fire chiefs from our volunteer fire companies asking that an ordinance amendment be considered that would simply require that people who have, property owners who have a fire hydrant in front of their property remove the snow to assist in the response time.
I'll move to introduce 11A.
Is there any discussion first? I mean, I think it's pretty basic. I'll
talked about
second. All in favor?
Well,
Or you want
just-
some discussion? Go ahead.
Just for a brief discussion. So first of all, I thought this was the law. Certainly is common sense. But I guess a concern that I have is how we would handle circumstances, particularly where fire hydrants are at intersections. Because intersections, by their nature, have to be cleared, much more space. There isn't an immediate curb necessarily to push the snow to. I know this came up with bus stops and things like that, where the corners of intersections end up with a particularly large mound of snow. So I certainly support this conceptually. I just would want to make sure that we have discussion about how we would handle situations where fire hydrants at or near intersections would be approached. That's just an open comment. We don't have to necessarily resolve it right now, but I'm hoping that we can, have commentary on that in time for 2 weeks.
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, I'll tell you that, so.
I wouldn't want to have a resident come to us and say, I'd love to clear it, but you've just piled 7 feet of snow in front of it. How can I possibly do that?
The only way I could respond to that is where I live, I have an inlet in front of my house. And a few years ago, we had a lot of snow, and there was literally a 7-foot pile of snow that Public Works had pushed right on top of that inlet. And I took a picture of it, and I sent it to someone, and I said, if you think that I'm going to move this snow, you've got to be crazy. So I think in those instances, I think it's a point well taken. I think we have to ensure that the relevant Public Works entity does not impede the ability for these fire hydrants to be cleared. In my office is a device that it can be attached to fire hydrants that or extend the height of a fire hydrant with a pole of probably 5 feet. And Chief Driscoll from Green Knoll provided it to me. There's only one person that knew what it was when they walked in the office. Now you all know. But that's one option that I think we should consider to try to outfit these fire hydrants if in the event we have large snowfalls.
I don't want to, seem that I'm opposed to this in any way, shape, or form. I support this. I'm candidly surprised that it wasn't already on the books, but I just want to make sure that we have some accounting for the downstream consequence, particularly at intersections.
I will also say that upon knowing that this proposed ordinance was going to be introduced, I conscientiously made a note of looking for the fire hydrants as I drove down several of the roads in town, and very few have those reflector devices on them, and quite a few were hidden by brush, whether it was tall grass or weeds or something along those lines. But so, I think we would probably should consider expanding those markers to more fire hydrants, just so that the visibility is there. I have a question that perhaps you'd be able to have an answer for the public hearing at the next council meeting, which is how many fire hydrants, if any, are within Bridgewater that are on lands that are not abutting public streets? And
In other words, fire hydrants on private property?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
And would that, or should that be covered by such ordinance? It doesn't seem that it would be, but that is, I guess, the answer to that probably is how many of them are there? And perhaps a technical definition of what a fire hydrant is qualified as under this ordinance would probably be necessary, so there isn't any confusion that a standpipe on a building is or is not a fire hydrant.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, can we take a vote on the introduction of the ordinance?
Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes.
Final action for this ordinance is scheduled for August 6, 2026 at 7 p.m. here in the municipal courtroom. Public inspection of this ordinance is available on the township website, the bulletin board, and through the clerk's office.
Can I suggest 12A and B together?
Yes. So, moving on to 12A and B. 12A is certification of the 2025 municipal audit. 12B is resolution approving the corrective action with regard to the 2025 municipal audit. There, can I have I don't need a motion. Is there
Certainly.
any discussion?
Discussed these quite a bit. I will gladly move 12A and B on consent.
I'll second. All in favor? Oh, we need a roll call.
You need a roll call.
Need a roll call, sorry. For A and B, we need a roll call.
Grace, are we okay with the certification being on consent with, okay.
Yeah. Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. All right, moving on to 12C. Request for waiver of permit fees not to exceed $3,445 from the Fire Construction Code and Health Departments for the Somerset County 4-H Association in connection with the Somerset County 4-H Fair at North Branch Park, 310 Milltown Road, Bridgewater, New Jersey, on August 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2026. I hope everybody is planning on attending.
Well, they can't if we don't approve this. So I will move it.
I will second. Can I have a roll? Oh, was there any discussion?
It's something we do every year.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Conversation is hopefully it's dry like last year and not wet like darn near every other year, right, Mr. Pappas?
All right, Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. D, authorizing the discharge of property rehabilitation mortgage for 1048 Hoffman Road. Can I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second, I have a question before we vote on it. So this mortgage is this mortgage should have been released in 2019. It's 7 years old. Do we not release them until somebody comes before us and says, like, they're going to sell the property and now they need the lien removed? Or is this just an oversight? I'm just curious.
I think it's when they've requested it. I don't recall the council approving many of these, and I know that there are more that have been approved previously.
Okay, I mean, so what would typically happen is somebody goes to sell the property and they run a search and they find there's a lien and now they have to go before the council and ask for the release.
In 6 years, it's the first time I've seen one.
Okay.
Or there may be another reason why maybe they're not selling, and there may be another reason why they want the lien removed.
Well, they probably aren't since they got the property rehabilitated. Okay, I think we need a roll call on this.
Deus was around in February 2019, then perhaps Mr. Corsini, so I don't know if we can give you a straight answer.
That would have been maybe Mr. Savo. So.
Okay.
Do we know how many properties have rehabilitation mortgages?
I don't have that number here. I could get that for you.
The the Affordable Housing Administrator could probably get that number, I would think.
Okay, and as a, secondary to that, do we need to have a reconciliation of how many of them have been satisfied and should be discharged from the property records? I guess that's a general question. Is that something we should be proactive at doing, or only upon request?
We'll look at that. The question's never come up. It's a good question. This whole sphere is highly regulated, and there may be some statutory requirement or regulation, so I will check into that and circle back.
Thank you.
Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. All right. E, authorizing the execution of a release of part of mortgage premises for Block 230, Lot 15, 295 Yorktown Road to facilitate the New Jersey Department of Transportation, NJDOT, acquisition for road improvements. So just by way of explanation, this is a property that had a housing rehabilitative grant. The state is making improvements to the road in front of it and is taking a very small sliver of the road. So this is now going to put the rehabilitation, the mortgage on the property for the rehabilitation on the remaining part of the property, and it's going to remove the mortgage from that little sliver that the state is taking. Did I explain that right?
Yeah, and if we don't do this, they can't sign the property over to the state to improve Route 28.
There you go. Even further, better explanation.
So moved.
I'll second. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. F, appointing Shirag Mehta Esquire as Assistant Municipal Court Prosecutor pursuant to Section 4-76 of the Municipal Code for a term commencing July 24th, 2026, and continuing through December 31st, 2026.
Madam President, I think we had asked for, and maybe you didn't get the version, the effective date we're asking to be July 17th, and not the 24th, but 17th through the end of the year.
You might be looking at an old agenda.
Well, I might be, yeah. Okay, July 17th?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. Any discussion? Have a roll call, please.
Councilman Baco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. Moving on to the discussion section, is there any?
Sorry, 12G.
You have G.
To you. Authorizing an extension of the 2026 third quarter tax grace period. I did see this on one of the agendas. Okay. Authorizing extension of the 2026 third quarter tax grace period due to delayed tax rate certification. Can I have a motion?
We'll make the motion.
I'll second. I think there should be a little bit of discussion.
A brief discussion. So Mr. Pappas, first of all, or actually not for Mr. Pappas, just in general, first of all, it should be noted that we took the action we were required to well in advance of any deadline. So the municipal portion is not the reason for this delay, correct?
County, that's correct. The county just certified the tax rate, and that is allowing all the municipal governments in the county that have adopted their budgets to then prepare and issue tax bills.
So they have struck the rate?
Yes.
And what is the rate, please? I'm sorry. Was that not a fair question?
One thing I didn't prepare for, so I don't know if it, I assume it's not different from what the council has approved previously, but I don't know the precise number.
All right, but the problem is it was only recently struck, and that is what is now allowing us to issue the tax bills.
Correct.
So do we know when those tax bills are going to go out?
I don't have that date. The tax collector is working with Ms. Hausman to establish that date. We will announce that. They have to ensure that the printer can have it delivered a certain date, and so we don't have that date yet.
Do we think this extension is sufficient time?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Carol, let's see. We have a motion, we have a second. We need a roll call, right?
Councilman Bucko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. Is there any discussion?
I apologize. I do have one item.
Go ahead.
I apologize. I think, well, it's minor, but it has some significant ramifications. Something that comes up from time to time is the topic of benefits for elected officials. You'll see the proposed change here in bold. In essence, it would allow anyone on this dais currently receiving, elected officials on this dais currently receiving benefits to continue to receive them through the remainder of their term, and following the remainder of anyone's term, they would be ineligible moving forward for benefits. And the September 1st date is assuming we were to introduce it and then approve it in the month of August. Depending upon timing, that might have to be adjusted. I didn't expect silence.
I think we only have one person.
I don't know, and I'm not asking, so. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're doing this prospectively.
Yes, absolutely, prospectively. It's a topic that has been a hot button over the years. This is not targeting anyone or any individual whatsoever. It's targeting the overall question.
I think that it's not a it's not a secret. I don't think it would be that all of us have employment outside of being up here, and probably receive benefits through that employment. I guess the concern that I would have with this is, and granted, this is not a full-time job, even though sometimes
It's a lot more than 2 meetings a month.
yes, it's a lot more than 2 meetings a month. That's correct. I would be concerned that it would discourage individuals who, might not have the ability to have concurrently full-time employment outside of the position to seek elected office in their community, and obviously that needs to be weighed against the as you mentioned, the hot button issue of whether elected officials should receive such health insurance benefits. I think that there's a lot of consideration that we need to think about here, and you could go both ways of it shouldn't be a vehicle to and let me preface this by saying I am not suggesting anyone up here is using their position. This is just hypothetically saying I don't think that the elected office should be a means to enrich yourself, but at the same time, like I said, I'm worried that it would discourage individuals who are not who do not have the capacity or capability financially to not be able to do it either. So I think there's a very careful balancing act that we need to consider there. That said, I look forward to discussing this further.
I guess I just need to get an idea if there's a consensus to move forward to discuss it, because if there's not, then there's no reason to move forward.
I mean, I don't know that I have any major objections, but yeah, I just want a minute to, I'm tired and I want a minute to, I mean, I want to read it, but yeah.
So what I'm hearing is...
I would say go ahead.
Let's bring it up at next meeting.
Yeah.
Or let's do this. If you have thoughts or feedback between now and the next meeting, let me know. Do we want to tentatively plan on it for the next meeting?
Say if you can get the language drafted.
Obviously, Mr. Corsini's would have to tweak any language to his satisfaction.
I just want to make sure I understand the proposal. So the proposal is that essentially effective with this ordinance passage on or about September 1st, that
anyone that's elected, re-elected, or even appointed after September
after that time,
yeah, would be ineligible. So anybody currently on this dais, if they're receiving benefits, they would have it for the remainder of their term. Assuming they're re-elected, they would no longer have that option. That's the intent.
Yeah, I guess what I'm confused about is, they don't allow, I mean, I think most of us, I think a lot of us do spend 35 hours a week doing this, but I don't think any of us qualify as full-time employees, so I'm not sure.
This is good.
That's confusing me.
This would clarify it formally.
I see what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Yes. There's many weeks, I think we would all agree, we spend more than 35 hours, and there's some weeks, maybe not so much.
Not too many of them. And I know how much everybody on this dais works, so.
So maybe anyone who has any comments can get them to Councilman Ring?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Thank you.
Council just suggested that anybody who has any comments should get them to Councilman Ring.
I did have a question if there's like other hot topics like this that might come up or have been in the past.
That's a...
Sorry, is it too much for tonight? Okay, well.
Well, I'm sure there are other third rails we can just dive right on.
I have one, but I'll probably get a lot of pushback on it.
You want to bring it up now, or you want to bring it up some other night?
Ever?
Oh, it's up to you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, well, I thought we did, but I don't see that on the...
you can't tease us now.
Oh, that's on the closed session, all right.
Yep.
I just want to bring up really, these are just thoughts. There was a request for one of the groups that spoke earlier. They wanted to present slides on the screen ahead of time, and I said, no, we're not set up for that. If we do it for one, we have to do it for all. And I don't know that we want the public to come in and do PowerPoint presentations. I don't think it could be done within any kind of reasonable time limit. But I think one of the things we might want to consider is when people are handing us paper, usually 1 or 2 sheets, if there was some way that they could possibly put that up on the screen. That might be just something nice to think about in the future, and I did speak briefly to Suzanne about it. She thinks it's doable. I mean, I think there's some logistics involved, and I don't want to necessarily make a big discussion of it, but I just wanted to plant a seed. And then tying in with that, too, is I have had a request for some way for disabled people who can't attend the meetings in person, elderly people, disabled people, to somehow have a way to participate in the meetings, to attend the meetings via Zoom. And again, I'm not sure logistically how that would work, but I just want to plant a seed and see if there's any thoughts that could go into maybe allowing, some people who can't otherwise come to the meetings participate.
By participate, you mean to speak during public session?
Yeah,
Because people can access now. Your concern is the incremental access to be able to address us.
Correct, because, otherwise they just can watch, but they can't comment during the public comments.
Well, just, as some brief history there, so the system that we have is an upgrade that occurred about 3 or 4 years ago. It was placed into the budget at the insistence of Councilman Ring and myself, and that's why we have the improved cameras, we have the system and the monitors and all this stuff. So we are in a much better place than we were. We historically have made a decision to either be online, as we were during COVID, and then I believe during a brief period of time later in COVID, we've made the decision to either be online or live. And that's placed everybody in one of those buckets. We have not previously, doesn't mean we can't, but we have not previously done a hybrid circumstance. But that's just kind of the history.
And that also opens the question or the door of, well, if the public's hybrid, what happens when a member of this dais can't physically be here? Are they allowed to be hybrid?
And related to that, because this is actually an interesting conversation. Because there have been instances where a member of council, had surgery or some other, period of incapacitation, and may have had to miss meetings. We never really came up with a policy. I know there were some instances where former Councilman Norgalis attended some meetings, participated but did not vote. The feeling at the time was voting is a behavior, is an activity that you must be in this room, because that then opens up a slippery slope. Well, what is your ailment? Why are you not here? Are you not here out of choice, or you're not here because you happen to be?
You have to bring a doctor's note.
Do you happen to be at a beach location? So we kind of chose not to go there, but I think all of this does introduce some policy questions that certainly we could and should consider.
When that happened with Councilman Norgalis, was he able to participate in the discussions and
Yes.
he just didn't vote? He just didn't vote.
Correct.
Madam President, besides the policy, which obviously the council can, there is a resource issue and technology issue involved
Yeah,
too.
I assume there would be. Go ahead.
I think that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. There's a potential additional staffing that would be needed to maintain a system. There is likely a significant investment that would need to be made. We spent, I think, $115,000 for the system that we have now that works pretty well. Because of the cost, one of the reasons we didn't pursue anything beyond that, there were other policy reasons that wasn't pursued, but then you have the question of the land use board hearings. Frankly, I'll weigh in here a little bit. Who's participating from where? You have people from across the country that are participating that will lengthen meetings and impact the deliberations that a governing body or a land use board can undertake. So I think you should consider those points as well. Thank you.
Okay. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and also the platform is important. I've called into other townships meetings. There was one, I know we got our first Crescent Moon here, but some other township was talking about it. So I called in, but it was through Zoom. We have YouTube, right? So I don't think YouTube might have that capability that Zoom does when there's a caller on hold trying to call in and speak, a public speaker. We might have trouble like connecting on YouTube that way. But Zoom calls, they're on hold, and I don't know how they did it, but it was really good. It was really
You
easy.
participated in other town council meetings via Zoom?
As a public speaker, yeah.
May I?
Oh, as a
Public
presenter.
speaker, yeah.
Okay.
In the public speaking portion,
Yeah.
I spoke.
Well, not
yeah.
as someone standing up to make comments specifically, but you were doing a
Virtual.
presentation.
No, just a public comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like the 3 minutes that we get, same thing. But it was automatic because it was through Zoom. They pulled me in somehow.
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
May I suggest that you consider a two-person subcommittee to then also speak with Mr. Pappas or members of the administration to, do a framework
Sure.
here and, identify some of the issues and then, consider, solutions.
Do I have any volunteers? I'll volunteer if anybody wants to serve on a committee with me. My committee of one here? Oh, I guess I am.
No, I'll volunteer for that based on, any potential time constraints, but.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you very much. Okay.
Well, I would like to actually bring something up, and it actually kind of intersects with a lot of the topics that we just mentioned, plus some things that came up earlier this year, and not to draw this out any further about the audit, but the recommendation from the auditor was regarding the approximately $18,000 over expenditure for snow removal, and obviously that was an emergency situation where there was an unexpected additional snowstorm between the last meeting of the previous council's term and the start of the new term, and there was just not a time for a transfer from another account, and the contingency account was drained. So there's actually three items that I think we should consider. One is an analysis of how much we should keep in that contingency account, whether there's a minimum to be able to cover number of however many snow clearings that might occur in such a situation. But then should the council have held a emergency meeting to authorize that transfer before it became a problem that the auditor was flagging. So I think that is where, and that's the intersection with what we just discussed, is I think we need to consider and probably create a policy around what should happen in that situation. Do we just let it ride out, or do we have an emergency meeting called? Maybe it's one that does have to be virtual due to if there's an emergency situation, such as the roads are covered in snow and ice, or maybe it's just due to timing that not everyone could make a in-person meeting. But should there be one? And what would that look like, and how would we do that? I think that's something we need to really consider very carefully and come up with a policy and process to follow.
There is precedent, by the way, for emergency virtual meeting.
Yeah, so in that case, I guess it goes to, should we set a policy that that is what should happen in such a situation?
Was that done by Zoom, Councilman Kirsch?
I don't recall. It may have been before we had the current recording system.
I can.
But do on the phone, maybe? I don't know how they do it.
It was in 2021.
I was in Chicago, is all I
Hurricane
remember.
Ida, and we had the sewer force main rupture on Route 22, Middlebrook.
Yep.
We had the collapse of the portion of Vossler Avenue embankment. So the council had to have an emergency meeting for an emergency appropriation to generate the funds to be utilized for these repairs. And an emergency appropriation is just that, an emergency situation, unanticipated, and that would have to be funded. You would have the option of funding it from the next year's budget.
So how did
Calendar
they
year's
do, how did they do the meeting? Did they have?
It was a virtual meeting. I don't know if it was just a phone call or it was Zoom, but it was
Okay.
it was on a Friday.
Oh, that one you're referencing was definitely a phone
It was
call.
on a Friday afternoon. It was a few days after the storm when we had, Bill had put together some estimates.
After the storm.
Okay, I don't remember exactly.
So the public couldn't participate in
They
that?
could listen. They could listen. They could listen.
They actually did have a chance to comment, but their comments were limited to only, because I remember Alex saying.
Or was some kind of fancy phone thing that had to be set up?
Well, no, but you couldn't comment on anything you wanted to.
Was that
You could
Just
only
comment, right.
comment
Okay.
on the emergency agenda.
No, I'm remembering, my brain is now remembering what we did before we had Zoom, and we did, there
Ring
were rare
Central.
instances
Ring
where
Central.
that
We
kind of
used
thing
something called
happened.
Ring
yeah.
Central, where it was a phone call. It may have been that. I don't recall.
Yeah, you used to have to call the phone company and set up a conference.
Yeah.
It was
It
complicated.
was 2021, September of 2021. I remember it vividly.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion? Then I think we're going to go into closed session.
I don't believe we're going to take any action after this for the public's benefit, just FYI.
So if anybody, well, there's only one person left.
Motion to enter into closed session.
Second.
Well, I think you need to read it, though.
Oh, okay. So item number 14, closed session regarding public safety. We have a motion. I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You need to read.
I don't have that in front of me. Be it resolved by the Bridgewater Township Council that this body will now hold a closed meeting to discuss public safety. When and if the matters discussed become public record, this will be made known to the public at that time. The public is excluded from said meeting and further notice thereof is dispensed with, all in accordance with Section 8 and 4A of the Open Public Meetings Law. I guess we have to have a roll call.
Do we need a roll call or a voice vote?
Well, I got the roll call on the sheet.
It is a resolution.
Okay, it's a resolution.
You can do it however you want.
Councilman Bacco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Isla?
Yes.
Councilman Kirsch?
Yes.
Councilman Ring?
Yes.
President Geiger?
Yes. Okay, we are now in closed session. Are we live?
Second, Gary.
Says we're in closed session.
Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, so the whole point with the whole, so Guy Sorka, the ADP, so he's a professional guy, lives up in Berkeley.